Naruto. Kidnapping Rin Nohara to create the strongest Kirigakure. Chapter 81. East of the Hidden Mist Village, on a seldom visited small island. Several women's curses suddenly rang out, startling a large flock of seagulls into flight. Ding Yuantang, you fool. You went for physical therapy and ended up on Kiko's bed. What? Wasn't Ding Yuantang at my place last night? That scoundrel must have used the shadow clone technique again. I knew something was up when it was over in just a few minutes. Tang-kun, don't be scared. Come to my place tonight to avoid the heat. My best friend is also here tilde. Amidst the chorus of curses, the man named Ding Yuantang walked calmly along the village path, hands in his pockets. He adjusted the sunglasses on his face and sighed softly. Alas, I merely made a mistake every man makes. I just wanted to offer every woman a warm embrace. What's wrong with that? You are too narrow-minded. Just as his voice fell silent, a familiar voice sounded behind him. Uncle Tang, when you say things like that, can you stop trying to sneak out of the village? Ding Yuantang's sturdy frame trembled slightly, and before turning his head, he began shouting. Che, you brat, you're too rude. I was the one who changed your diapers, you know. Seeing the young man standing before him, Ding Yuantang embraced him, laughing heartily. The voices cursing him abruptly ceased, replaced by gentle greetings. Oh my, Che-kun has grown taller again. Che-kun hasn't been here for a month. Auntie has prepared your favorite plum wine. Huh, who is this pretty little girl? Keigaya Tetsu, you're dating and didn't tell me. Ding Yuantang waved his large hand, trying to silence them, but unfortunately, he achieved the exact opposite effect, forcing him to lead Keigaya Tetsu and the girl into his house amidst the chirping noise. Is this Heaven Village? Rin Nohara looked around at the dilapidated small village and the villagers who, despite being thin and sallow, wore beaming smiles, muttering inwardly. Keigaya Tetsu said he wanted to show her the real world, and then took her to find a boat and traveled all the way to Heaven Village. However, the appearance of this village was completely unrelated to the word, heaven. Arriving at Ding Yuantang's home, she silently observed the man before her, tall, elegant in demeanor, with a weathered face that still retained traces of his former handsomeness. His clothes were heavily patched but clean and tidy. Overall, he could be called a handsome uncle. But recalling the curses she had just heard, Rin Nohara couldn't help but show a look of disgust. Seeing her expression, Ding Yuantang protested, Hey, little girl, don't get the wrong idea. I'm a very devoted person. Keigaya Tetsu added from the side, I can testify that he is devoted to every woman. Even when he's too busy, he sends a shadow clone to take care of them. Rin Nohara let out a small, pfft, of laughter, then quickly covered her mouth. Ding Yuantang couldn't refute this, so he just smiled magnanimously. Those women are usually depressed, so I have to find ways to cheer them up. He poured tea for the two of them, looked at Rin Nohara, and chuckled. Not bad, Tetsu. Even Mei Terumi isn't enough for you anymore. Keigaya Tetsu, who was drinking tea, spat it out with a pfft. Uncle Tang, don't talk nonsense. Rin and I don't have that kind of relationship. At least, not yet. Rin Nohara didn't speak, deep in thought. While hiding in the backyard, she had heard Mei Terumi visit several times, and occasionally a fellow named Zabuza. Rin Nohara didn't know the relationship between the three of them, but she knew Mei Terumi was somewhat famous throughout the ninja world. Minato-sensei had even predicted she might become the Mizukage. After observing him for the past month, she realized Keigaya Tetsu was far more formidable than she had imagined. Not only had he become a jonin at the age of 12, but he also recently seemed to have become a member of the Hidden Mist Council of Elders, which would be a record-breaking feat even in Konoha. She grew increasingly curious. How could someone so prominent in the Hidden Mist village be involved with a disgusting uncle from a run-down village? Seeing Rin Nohara's confusion deepen, Keigaya Tetsu stopped playing coy and spoke. Rin, what I want to ask you to do is help me treat the villagers of Heaven Village. Rin Nohara was stunned, completely unprepared for such a request. She thought back and realized that this village seemed to be full of disabled people, including Ding Yuantang standing before her. Only when he served her tea did Rin Nohara notice that his right hand was a wooden prosthetic. Hearing Keigaya Tetsu's words, Ding Yuantang, who had just been so carefree, suddenly became reserved. He was about to speak but was stopped by Kagaya Tetsu's raised hand. Uncle Tang, don't say anything. This is a promise my parents made to you all, and it is also a promise between Rin and me. Ding Yuantang shrugged. In that case, take your time talking. I'm going to fry some tempura. He knew Kagaya Tetsu definitely had something important to say, so he headed to the kitchen. Kagaya Tetsu said calmly. Rin, I need to apologize to you. After I knocked you out, I asked Uncle Tang and the others to secretly bring you here by fishing boat. A surge of anger suddenly rose in Rin Nohara's heart. So she had been kidnapped by these people without anyone knowing. Before she could flare up, Kagaya Tetsu continued. Because I desperately needed a doctor. He spoke half-truths. The main purpose of kidnapping Rin Nohara was, of course, to counter Kenji, but needing her medical skills was also true. Uncle Tang was an elite Jonin of the Hidden Mist back then, and a teammate of my parents. Later, during one mission, both he and my parents refused to slaughter civilians, which caused them to be resented. He and my parents were ambushed during a mission. My parents died in battle, and he lost an arm. Listening to Kagaya Tetsu's calm voice, Rin Nohara suddenly felt her anger subside considerably. Heaven Village was established by my parents and Uncle Tang long ago, specifically to house the disabled ninja of the Hidden Mist Village. However, those who committed disgusting acts are not qualified to enter. The people here are at least good-hearted. My parents and Uncle Tang promised back then that they would ensure these ninja had a home. After my parents passed away, I inherited that promise. These people lost their spirit long ago and are unwelcome in the village, so they willingly live here, making a living by fishing. I send them money when I save up, though they never accept it. Rin Nohara widened her eyes and asked. Doesn't your Hidden Mist village even offer basic support? In her memory, Konoha allocated huge sums every year specifically to care for injured and disabled ninja. Kagaya Tetsu gave a wry smile and countered. Rin, have you ever seen a disabled ninja in Konoha? Rin Nohara froze. She suddenly realized that she truly hadn't seen any disabled ninja in Konoha. This clearly didn't make sense. After all, there were many Konoha ninja, and surely many injured ninja, so they shouldn't be rare. Unless Konoha also had a place similar to Heaven Village, and she simply didn't know about it. A cold sweat ran down her back. Seeing Rin Nohara's reaction, Kagaya Tetsu wasn't surprised. In this world, ninja are essentially tools. When a tool breaks, it's naturally discarded, and hardly anyone bothers to fix it. Forget these disabled ninja, even the fourth Hokage's son had to drink expired milk. The Hidden Mist village is even worse. Ao made great contributions during the Fourth Great Ninja War but was severely injured. Although he was lucky enough to receive treatment and was fitted with mechanical prosthetics, no one cared for him, leading him to become depressed, eventually turning dark and defecting to the Kara organization. Rin Nohara finally understood what Kagaya Tetsu meant by the real world. As a doctor, she felt an uncontrollable pang of pain. Seeing her deep in thought, Kagaya Tetsu struck while the iron was hot. They despise the Hidden Mist higher-ups, so they are unwilling to accept help from Elder Genshi or Mei. Furthermore, the Mizukage-sama cannot possibly waste medical resources on a bunch of cripples. So I want to ask Miss Rin to help treat them. Restoring lost limbs is certainly impossible, but treating internal injuries and certain diseases should be manageable. Rin Nohara was conflicted. A Konoha medical ninja coming here to treat ninja from the Hidden Mist village. It was utterly preposterous. But this was the fastest way for her to leave the Hidden Mist village, and it seemed she had no room to refuse. Kagaya Tetsu coaxed her. There are hundreds of patients here. Once you finish treating them, you will at least reach the level of a medical jonin. Wouldn't it be wonderful to return to Konoha and serve the village then? Furthermore, I will provide as much support as possible. Whatever medical texts you want to read, whatever medical equipment you need, as long as I can procure it, it's yours. He was very optimistic about Rin Nohara's talent. Becoming a medical jonin was merely the girl's baseline. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been qualified to join Minato's squad. As for after she finishes treating these patients, by then, Rin Nohara would already be his. Hearing Kagaya Tetsu's suggestion, Rin Nohara was strongly tempted. Her passion for medical ninjutsu was undeniable. In Konoha, she would never have the opportunity to independently treat hundreds of patients, but the chance was right in front of her now. Furthermore, although she was unwilling to admit it, deep down, Rin Nohara wished to cure every patient, even if they belonged to an enemy village. Miss Rin, I once heard a story from the Sengoku era about a remarkable medical ninja who insisted on going into battle unarmed, refusing to kill, only to save lives. After a brutal battle, he took advantage of the night to save dozens of people, even those from enemy countries, and still carried no weapons. On the battlefield, he constantly prayed, "Let me save one more." Miraculously, he was neither killed nor injured. Perhaps the six-path sage was protecting him in the shadows. I believe that is what a true healer is. Rin Nohara didn't know if the story was true or false, but it genuinely moved her. I agree. She spoke, clenching her fist. Kagaya Tetsu smiled lightly and extended his hand. I swear, once the treatment is complete, I will do everything in my power to send you back to Konoha. Rin Nohara hesitated for a moment, then shook his hand. Boots splashed into a puddle, sending a small spray of water onto a few rats nearby. They squeaked in dissatisfaction, then buried their heads to continue gnawing on a boy's corpse. Kagaya Tetsu ran for a while before stopping, wiping the rain from his face, and looking at the distant city outline. I should reach the hidden rain village in half an hour. Not long ago, Kagaya Tetsu celebrated his 13th birthday, but he had no time to make a wish or blow out candles. He had just finished directing a major film production and completed an extremely insidious plan, finally earning 2 days of vacation. He immediately rushed to the land of rain without delay. It truly is a crying nation. He murmured, walking along the suburban path towards the hidden rain village. If one were to rank the most tragic countries in the ninja world, the land of rain would undoubtedly be at the top. Hanzo used to be stationed here, one of the two Sannin of the ninja world, one cunning and cruel, the other cruel and cunning. Hanzo protected the land of rain for many years by himself. However, Hanzo never recovered after the Second Great Ninja War, spending his days holed up in his fortress like a shut-in. The land of rain was invaded repeatedly during the Third Great Ninja War, but he never reappeared to defend against foreign enemies. Instead, he lost his former magnanimity and became a schemer like Danzo. After the Fourth Great Ninja War, other countries began to rebuild, but the land of rain seemed to be forgotten. Later, when Sasuke and Sai infiltrated the land of rain to investigate the Kara organization, they found that its situation had not improved. If Nagato had foreseen the tragic future of his country when facing Naruto's talk no jutsu promise, one wonders if he would still have been so magnanimous as to revive all his enemies. Ultimately, when a country places its fate in the hands of the strong, hoping others will help it achieve a good life, it will only end up losing everything. This is also documented in the war between Damao and Ermao. However, the situation in the land of rain wasn't so bad at this time. At least Hanzo was still around, and the Akatsuki organization had just risen, spreading ideals of peace everywhere, not yet forced into villainy by Kenji and Danzo. Ironically, the land of rain experienced a period of peace during the reign of the villainous Akatsuki organization. Lost in thought, Kagaya Tetsu entered the hidden rain village. This village had a modern urban feel. The perpetual heavy rain meant no wooden buildings, only cold, oppressive steel architecture. Yahiko was still alive, and Nagato hadn't yet developed the rain tiger at will technique. With no one from the hidden mist village to stop him, Kagaya Tetsu entered smoothly, winding through alleys until he reached a simply decorated small shop. Yorizuya. Kagaya Tetsu softly read the name of the signboard, finding it a bit amusing. He had specifically chosen this name. Not everyone in the ninja world had the money to commission ninja for missions. Even a D-rank mission to find cats and dogs started at 5,000 ryo, let alone in a place as poor as the land of rain. Therefore, there were many private agencies in various countries that helped clients who couldn't afford ninja to complete tasks. Most of these tasks were easy and not dangerous, and the fees were much lower. This Yorizuya was one such agency. Kagaya Tetsu knocked 3 times, and a soft voice responded. Coming tilde. The door opened, revealing a black-haired, red-eyed girl. She was about the same age as Mei Terumi, 15 or 16, and resembled Karen, but with paler skin, more refined features, and a more prominent figure. Most notably, unlike Karen's uninteresting black-rimmed glasses, the girl in front of him wore delicate, light red-rimmed glasses, making her appear refined, gentle, and elegant. The most striking feature was her slender legs, clad in black over-the-knee stockings, subtly revealing a hint of flesh, making them appear quite shapely. Keigaya Tetsu smiled and greeted her. Kana, long time no see. The girl before him was Uzumaki Kana, the owner of Yorizuya. After the bone clone rescued Uzumaki Kana from the Kusa village hospital, it brought her all the way to the Hidden Rain village, then bought a storefront for her to live there as the owner of Yorizuya. The Hidden Rain village currently had no true leader, a mix of good and bad, and no one would question her origins, making it very suitable for hiding people. Keigaya Tetsu had not misjudged this girl, she was highly adaptable. She quickly dyed her hair black and successfully integrated into life in the land of rain. Moreover, Uzumaki Kana soon displayed powerful talent. Although she had only undergone Chunin-level ninja training, she easily handled many requests and gradually gained a reputation in the nearby neighborhood. Initially, she needed Keigaya Tetsu to send her money monthly for support, but now she could live independently. Seeing Keigaya Tetsu, Uzumaki Kana's face immediately turned the same color as her eyes. Tetsu Tetsu Tetsu. Che-kun. She immediately wanted to kneel. Keigaya Tetsu quickly pulled her up. No need for formalities, let's go inside and talk. So Uzumaki Kana quickly welcomed Keigaya Tetsu into the house, closed the door, and poured him water. Clink, clink, clink. The ceramic teapot in Uzumaki Kana's hand made soft sounds, the lid tapping against the body. The girl's hands trembled uncontrollably as she kept replaying the scene of her first meeting with Keigaya Tetsu in her mind. After she woke up, the bone clone told her what had happened and declared her free. Freedom. Since the destruction of the land of whirlpools and Uzumaki Kana's exile, she had not heard those two words again. She initially thought Keigaya Tetsu also saw her as a blood bag and immediately rolled up her sleeve, ready for blood extraction. It wasn't until the bone clone settled her into this small shop and gave her a sum of money that Kana finally believed it wasn't a dream. You are a human, not a tool. At that time, Keigaya Tetsu gently pulled down her sleeve and told her this. Every month, Keigaya Tetsu would make time to visit her, and each time Kana was very nervous. This nervousness wasn't due to fear, but rather guilt. Kana had always repaid others, kindness, with her blood, and encountering someone who didn't need her blood for the first time left her unsure how to compensate him. Keigaya Tetsu took the water and smiled lightly. Kana, have you found any traces of our clan members recently? He didn't advise Kana not to be nervous, as that would only make her more anxious, so he directly started a new topic. Kana's hands indeed stopped trembling, and she answered seriously. Che-kun, I haven't found any clan members recently. However, regarding the Akatsuki organization you're interested in, I heard there seems to be a red-haired boy in it, who might be related to the Uzumaki clan. Keigaya Tetsu didn't just place Kana in the land of rain to give her a place to live. He wanted to gather Uzumaki clan members through Kana and simultaneously collect information on the Akatsuki organization's movements. According to the intelligence he had gathered, before the destruction of the land of whirlpools, there were probably 20 to 30,000 people. In the end, several hundred should have scattered across the ninja world. Even if many had died over the years, there must still be over 100 left. This number of people would be enough for the Uzumaki clan to rise again. His ambition was not just to acquire one Uzumaki Kana, he wanted to regather the Uzumaki clan and make them his own force. As for the Akatsuki organization, the future primary antagonist, Keigaya Tetsu needed to constantly know their movements even more. This was why he helped Kana establish Yorizuya at the time. Yorizuya's commissions were varied, and it allowed her to interact with all sorts of people, neither too conspicuous nor too difficult to gather information, making it quite convenient. Hearing that Kana hadn't found anything for the time being, Keigaya Tetsu wasn't anxious and comforted her. It's all right, Kana, you've already done very well. Don't rush to find clan members, and most importantly, don't expose yourself. Also, regarding that Akatsuki organization, don't get too close for now. Gather whatever information you can, especially about that red-haired boy, definitely don't try to investigate him. Uzumaki Nagato had a mastermind watching him, and Keigaya Tetsu was afraid that if Kana showed too much interest, Whitezetsu would come knocking on her door in minutes. Okay. Kana nodded heavily, completely obedient to all of Keigaya Tetsu's instructions. Saying this, she reached into her inner pocket and pulled out a small purse. Chie-kun, I've saved some money to return to you first. I'll continue to work hard for the rest. Uzumaki Kana hadn't forgotten Keigaya Tetsu's help and had been diligently saving money, intending to repay him. Keigaya Tetsu held the purse, which still carried the girl's warmth, and gently pushed it back. Kana, I've already told you, I helped you because I have some old acquaintances from the Uzumaki clan. Seeing you reminds me of them, so I just wanted to do what I could. His so-called Uzumaki acquaintances were, of course, Kushina, Nagato, and Karen. Although this was just a one-sided acquaintance. Seeing Kana's flustered and guilty expression, Keigaya Tetsu pulled out 2 scrolls. If you want to repay me, then teach me these 2 sealing jutsu first. These were 2 sealing jutsu rewarded to him by the Hidden Mist Village, the D-rank 1 thread light formation and the B-rank self-inflicted curse mark. Konoha possessed 99% of all sealing jutsu in the ninja world, so these 2 were already treasures for the Hidden Mist Village. Fortunately, both were sealing jutsu that restricted enemy movement, quite practical, so acquiring them wasn't a loss. Keigaya Tetsu had the 100-fold comprehension talent, so learning sealing jutsu wasn't difficult to get started, but there were still many unresolved challenges. Sealing jutsu is like mathematics, anyone can deceive you, but mathematics won't, because if you don't understand it, you just don't understand it. The same applies to sealing jutsu. Uzumaki Kana quickly took them, glanced at them, and said softly. Chie-kun, I'm sorry, I haven't really studied sealing jutsu much, and I haven't seen either of these. But I'll learn them right away. To Keigaya Tetsu's astonished gaze, Uzumaki Kana first spent a few minutes scanning the 2 scrolls, then half an hour mastering them, and performed them right in front of Keigaya Tetsu. From beginner to mastery, Uzumaki Kana took less than an hour. Keigaya Tetsu was dumbfounded. Was this what it felt like to encounter a truly talented individual, so strong as to be an unbeatable monster? He felt a bit disappointed, but then he thought, disappointed about what? In the original story, Uzumaki Karen hardly received any formal training yet could effortlessly use top-tier sealing jutsu like adamantine chains. Kana was her mother, so she could only be stronger. Kana, you're amazing. Under Uzumaki Kana's guidance, he quickly grasped the previous difficult points. Kana was very embarrassed, her slender fingers nervously intertwined. No, not at all, Chie-kun is very smart. Then she suddenly realized something and quickly put her hands in her pockets. After being severely drained of blood at the Kusa village hospital, her fair hands had many hideous needle marks that hadn't healed yet. She didn't want to show an ugly side to Keigaya Tetsu. Just as Kana felt ashamed, her small hand suddenly felt a warmth. Kana, you don't have to feel inferior about the past. You are the most beautiful Uzumaki girl I have ever seen. His gentle words were like raindrops, washing away the congested blockages in Kana's heart. A warmth surged into her eyes, and the girl suddenly wanted to instinctively throw herself into Keigaya Tetsu's arms, but she didn't dare. Keigaya Tetsu held her hand and gently said, Kana, don't dwell on the past. We will be dead for a long time, so you must be happy while you are alive. Kana's nose stung, and she could no longer hold back, opening her arms to embrace him. Unfortunately, with a bang, the bone clone completed its visit and instantly dissipated. In the small room, the girl's hand swept through white smoke, feeling a sense of loss. On a rainy night, Keigaya Tetsu stood in the training ground on the back mountain, carrying his sword but no umbrella. Standing beside him were Mei Terumi and Zabuza. Start when you're ready. Mei Terumi faced the dummy target in front of her and began forming hand signs. The 3 of them regularly gathered to display their training results, making it easier to understand each other's strength and cooperate better in combat. Lava release. Melting apparition technique. Mei Terumi opened her mouth and spat out a large mass of acidic liquid. The wooden dummy instantly melted, making sizzling sounds. Hee, my development of lava release has been pretty good lately, hasn't it? She wiped the acid from the corner of her lips, stuck out her tongue, and smiled proudly. A moment later, she realized something was wrong. Why weren't the other two talking? Mei Terumi turned around and saw Kagaya Tetsu and Zabuza staring at her with complicated expressions. That's disgusting. Zabuza spoke his mind bluntly. Kagaya Tetsu laughed and tried to smooth things over. Mei, don't worry about it. It's not really disgusting, it just looks a bit like spitting phlegm. Under Mei Terumi's nearly murderous gaze, the two of them shut up. HMPH, you two practice yourselves then. Mei Terumi ran off to sulk on the side. Kagaya Tetsu went to comfort her, and Zabuza gave a cool smile. Watch me. He had been silently training for a long time, and today he was determined to utterly astound his two teammates. Especially Kagaya Tetsu. That guy was the same age as him, yet he had already become a hidden mist elder, which gave Zabuza a sense of crisis. The demon of the bloody mist, who had shaken the village during the graduation exam back then, had actually become the weakest member of the team. He refused to accept it. Kagaya Tetsu had been busy pushing forward his grand plan lately and had neglected his training, so Zabuza felt his opportunity had arrived. He quickly formed a few hand signs. Water release. Water dragon bullet technique. A snow-white water dragon roared forth, instantly swallowing the wooden dummy, and then, without losing momentum, violently overturned the barbed wire fence of the training ground, creating a small river in an instant. Not bad, Zabuza, you can actually reach this level. Kagaya Tetsu gave a thumbs up. This B-rank ninjutsu was famous for requiring 44 hand signs. Only Senju Tobarama and Maruboshi Kosuke had simplified it to just a few signs, greatly enhancing the power of the water dragon bullet technique. Now, Zabuza had broken Maruboshi Kosuke's record with 5 hand signs, second only to the second, water, cage, Senju Tobarama. Kagaya Tetsu rubbed his chin. He didn't know if it was because Zabuza wanted to catch up to him, but Zabuza was clearly working harder, and his strength was improving much faster than before. Hey, it's your turn. Zabuza reminded him impatiently. Mei Terumi was still sulking in the corner, but when she heard it was Kagaya Tetsu's turn, she secretly turned her face to the side, wanting to see his performance. Please step back a bit. I'm afraid this new ninjutsu isn't very stable. Kagaya Tetsu warned them. Annoying. Zabuza muttered, but still obediently retreated 3 meters. To his surprise, Kagaya Tetsu shook his head. At least 10 meters. After the two retreated a significant distance, he spread open his right palm. Hand sign less ninjutsu. Mei Terumi was somewhat surprised, and Zabuza couldn't help but widen his eyes too. There were countless ninja, but those who could use hand sign less ninjutsu were few and far between. He hadn't expected Kagaya Tetsu to have reached this stage. Didn't this guy barely train? Is he secretly overworking himself behind our backs late at night? Zabuza frowned. A gust of wind gathered in Kagaya Tetsu's palm. The surrounding rainwater seemed to be drawn by an invisible force, spiraling toward the center of Kagaya Tetsu's palm in a vortex. In the blink of an eye, a small sphere appeared in Kagaya Tetsu's palm. This small sphere was only 6 or 7 centimeters in diameter, and its azure surface faintly revealed a black-red core. Although tiny, it inexplicably made Mei Terumi and Zabuza feel nervous. Just as the two were stunned, Kagaya Tetsu held his hand upright and gently pushed it forward. The small sphere vanished, and nothing happened. That's it. Zabuza felt a little disappointed. He thought Kagaya Tetsu would produce something truly impressive. Just as the thought crossed his mind, a scorching red light made him involuntarily close his eyes. Kagaya Tetsu, what are you doing? Mei Terumi asked loudly, but unfortunately, her voice was instantly drowned out. Boom! A deafening roar pierced the night sky, and the surrounding rainwater was instantly evaporated. A moment later, the red light dissipated. The two opened their eyes and stared dumbfounded at the scene before them. Behind the training ground, there had originally been a small hill over 10 meters high. Now, a massive hole had appeared out of thin air in the middle of the hill, as if a pattern on a canvas had been erased. The shockwave caused by the impact followed, and the fierce wind scattered the rainwater mid-air, forcibly creating a dry area. The two finally understood why Kagaya Tetsu had asked them to retreat as far as possible. Tetsu, what is that? Mei Terumi asked blankly. This ninjutsu must definitely be S rank. Keigaya Tetsu scratched his head, looking regretfully at the hill. It's a ninjutsu I haven't finished developing yet. It doesn't have a name for now. According to his design, this chakra sphere should have been able to level the entire hill, but it only managed to blow a large hole through it. After all, this was the power fused from the Eight Tails chakra and the Rasengan. After Keigaya Tetsu obtained wind release in Kusagakure, he quickly developed the Rasengan. As one of the few ninjutsu whose training method was clearly written out, it wasn't difficult for Keigaya Tetsu to learn. However, he had neither Minato's speed nor Naruto's massive chakra reserves, making it difficult to truly maximize the power of the Rasengan, so he decided to try a different approach. For example, mixing in the power of the Shikatsumyaku and the Tailed Beast Ball. The Tailed Beast Ball and the Rasengan are actually very similar. Both achieve immense destructive power by concentrating chakra to the extreme and then instantly releasing it. Keigaya Tetsu was not a tailed beast, so naturally, he couldn't directly create a tailed beast ball. However, he attempted to use the Rasengan's inherent centripetal force to mix Eight Tails chakra into the sphere, giving the Rasengan the power of a tailed beast, thereby creating a beggar's version of the tailed beast ball. But this power was too immense for him to control, so he mixed a small bone sphere into the center of the orb to act as a core, supporting the rotation of the chakra orb. Just as the sun's immense gravity holds other planets, Keigaya Tetsu's bone sphere acted like a tiny star, firmly anchoring this massive power around it. Through training during this time, he fought tooth and nail to shrink the chakra orb down to a diameter of 6 or 7 centimeters, concentrating the high-density energy within it as much as possible. The power of this ninjutsu was still insufficient, and its attack range and speed were not strong enough. Most troubling was that his body wasn't durable enough, and the risk of using the Eight Tails chakra was significant, so he could only use it as a trump card. Nevertheless, he had finally developed his first S-rank ninjutsu. Once the dust settled, Zabuza awkwardly shuffled over. Keigaya Tetsu, I have a friend who wants to ask how you usually train, especially how you developed this hand sign-less ninjutsu. He decided to swallow his pride. Coach, I want to learn this move too. Keigaya Tetsu glanced at him. Zabuza, is this friend, you? He didn't hide anything and told Zabuza some methods for training the Rasengan, though he naturally didn't mention having the Eight Tails chakra. With this experience, Zabuza might not be able to learn such a heaven-defying ninjutsu, but he could at least potentially master the Rasengan. Having gained the knowledge, Zabuza quickly left, planning to go back and ponder it slowly. Elder Sama, I didn't expect that after not seeing you for a while, you've already left the captain far behind. Mei Terumi's sarcastic voice drifted over. Keigaya Tetsu lightly coughed. You want to learn? I can teach you. Mei Terumi suddenly leaned closer, looking at him seductively. No rush. It's been a long time since we last met. Let me teach you first. Wipe that acid off your mouth first. At the Konoha Ninja Academy, Uchiha Inabe hesitated repeatedly before finally going to the homeroom teacher's office. Reporting, teacher, I'd like to ask for leave. Uchiha Inabe snapped to attention and quietly made his request. The bald homeroom teacher pushed up his glasses and immediately rejected the request. What is going on today? You're the 17th person in your class to ask me for leave. The final exams are coming up soon, and you're still acting like this. You truly are the worst class I've ever taught. Uchiha Inabe stated his reason. My cousin is getting married, and I need to attend the wedding. You've already used that excuse. She got divorced. This is her second marriage. Haha, I looked into it. You don't even have a cousin. Teacher, I misspoke. It's my parents getting married. They divorced previously and are now getting back together. At that moment, in the Uchiha clan compound, Inabe's parents couldn't help but sneeze. Under the homeroom teacher's speechless gaze, Uchiha Inabe happily left the school gates with his slip and headed straight for the cinema. Jade Feet, I'm here. A new movie titled, The Rescued Bobo, was scheduled to premiere this afternoon. Since The Godfather caused a public uproar last time, Konoha's review process for movie releases became much stricter. Every movie must first pass the village's internal review and display the Konoha Whirlpool symbol in the opening credits to receive public screening permission. After Konoha's review, the movie was determined to tell the story of a slave regaining freedom, seemingly without any sensitive material, so the review committee quickly approved it. Furthermore, the director of this film, Kuncho, was famous for producing blockbusters and inviting well-known movie stars. Konoha also hoped he would bring in significant box office revenue. But Uchiha Anabe didn't care about any of that. He just didn't want to miss any of director Kuncho's works, because Kuncho had a well-known hobby. Jade feet. The female protagonists in his films were always great beauties, and the movies were full of clearly suggestive shots, making them very attractive to foot fetishists like Uchiha Anabe. As a proud Uchiha, Anabe kept his XP strictly hidden, only finding release when watching Kuncho's works. Therefore, he absolutely couldn't miss this movie. Uchiha Anabe was excitedly running toward the cinema when he suddenly saw a familiar figure and involuntarily froze. That figure also saw him, walked over a few steps, and asked with a serious expression. Anabe, school hasn't ended yet, has it? Why are you running around outside? The person was Uchiha Tekka, staring at his younger brother with a scrutinizing gaze. Uchiha Anabe hadn't expected to run into his older brother. After the Battle of Kusagakure, Tekka had been resting in the Uchiha clan compound and rarely went out. He cursed his bad luck internally and pretended to be in pain. Big brother, I have a stomachache, so I took the afternoon off. Uchiha people are all doting on younger brothers. Seeing his brother's pained expression, Tekka immediately softened. Then hurry back and rest. I need to go to the police force. He patted Anabe's shoulder and hurried off in the direction of the police force. Uchiha Anabe let out a long breath and immediately sprinted toward the cinema. The movie was about to start, he couldn't be late. Arriving at the cinema entrance, Anabe saw a long queue had formed. Just as he was about to run and join the line, he suddenly saw someone. Brother! He cried out in surprise. Uchiha Tekka also noticed him and was startled. Didn't you have a stomachache? Weren't you going back to the police force? The two brothers asked simultaneously. Anabe, you dared to lie to me. Tekka gritted his teeth. Anabe was a little scared at first, but seeing his brother's guilty appearance, he sneered twice. Big brother, you're also a fan of director Kuncho, aren't you? You could have just told me, there's no need to sneak out to watch it. Tekka's face flushed red. Sneaking, can a ninja's business be called sneaking? This was followed by some incomprehensible words, like, critical appreciation, and, intelligence gathering, which caused the crowd to burst into laughter, filling the queue with a joyful atmosphere. Nevertheless, he pulled his younger brother next to him and warned him not to tell their parents, and the two brothers lined up together. Uchiha Anabe quickly realized there were many Ninja Academy classmates in the queue. No wonder so many people asked for leave today, they had all run off to see the movie. After a long wait, everyone finally entered. As they passed the huge poster of the romantic female protagonist, they all looked straight ahead with solemn faces, seemingly completely uninterested in such things. It wasn't until the movie started and the lights dimmed that a perfectly round, white, tender little foot, seemingly graspable, appeared on the screen, followed by a chorus of slurp slurp sounds in the theater. Idiot, control yourself. Your drool is dripping onto my popcorn. Uchiha Tekka glanced at his drooling brother with disgust, hugging his popcorn and moving farther away. Uchiha Anabe quietly lowered his head. Brother, what is that thing in your pants? You're the one who needs to control himself. Uchiha Tekka instantly covered it up. That's the kunai I'm hiding, for ambushing enemies. It wasn't placed properly, which is why it's sticking up. Look. Crack. He forcefully bent it down, making the kunai collapse. Uchiha Anabe gasped. Is this the level of a jonin? Truly terrifying. The two brothers stopped talking and began to seriously enjoy the movie. The story wasn't complicated. It told of a slave named Bobo who was sold to an underground gold exchange, where he met a six-fingered bounty hunter who bought him out to be his assistant. The two worked perfectly together, taking down many high-value targets and earning a fortune. In the process, the two developed a deep friendship. Bobo then revealed a past story. His wife was also a slave, sold to a place called Yahuo City, where she became the slave of the city lord. Bobo wanted to rescue her. The bounty hunter was very loyal and immediately started planning with Bobo. The two used the transformation technique to enter Yahuo City, disguised themselves as slave merchants, and found the city lord. The bounty hunter pretended to want to buy a batch of slaves, including Bobo's wife, planning to snatch her and run away once the city lord brought her out. However, the city lord had an old steward named Himawari. This man was originally a slave himself, but he quickly became the city lord's confidant by fawning over him and helping him persecute other slaves. Himawari recognized Bobo and discerned the bounty hunter and Bobo's plan from subtle clues. He immediately reported it to the city lord. The city lord was furious and summoned guard ninja to kill the bounty hunter. Bobo narrowly escaped death, but his wife was killed. Finally, Bobo infiltrated Yahuo City again under the cover of night and launched a satisfying revenge, successfully killing the city lord, inciting the other slaves to kill the steward Himawari, and subsequently burning down the city. The final shot focused on the fiercely burning private estate, where the city lord's livestock and fallow deer died screaming. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Uchiha Inabi clapped enthusiastically. His big head mind had defeated his little head lust, regaining control. The friendship between the bounty hunter and Bobo, as well as that exhilarating revenge, was truly wonderful to watch. As expected of director Kuncho, even without the jade feat, the plot isn't bad at all. Uchiha Teka, however, frowned slightly, feeling that something wasn't quite right. The plot of this movie was simple and direct, unlike The Godfather, which contained many hidden implications. The characters' names in the movie also seemed very ordinary, without any illusions. It passed the review, so there shouldn't be a problem, right? He could only reassure himself. Uchiha Teka was not the only one. After the movie ended, many people were pondering, vaguely feeling that the film was hinting at something. But unlike The Godfather, which directly borrowed from Konoha's history and whose intent was obvious, this movie was entirely fictional, making it difficult to discern any clues. Moreover, the entire film was full of jade feet, and several actresses provided plenty of fan service. Many people were controlled by their little head, instead of their big head, too busy suppressing their excitement to think. Thus, besides its explosive box office success on the first day, The Rescued Bobo did not spark any special discussion. This was exactly Kagaya Tetsu's plan. The Rescued Bobo was the brand new masterpiece he directed and filmed. When director Kunmaki saw his script, his eyes lit up, and he begged Kagaya Tetsu to arrange a cameo role for him, even if the screen time was only a few seconds. Licking the female lead's high heels. Kagaya Tetsu naturally obliged. As long as the film was good, nothing else mattered. He had anticipated that Konoha would tighten its censorship this time, so he chose a more obscure story to ensure that most viewers wouldn't notice any hidden meanings. Of course, he didn't intend for the audience just to enjoy themselves and leave. Even before the screening, Kagaya Tetsu had bribed numerous newspapers, merchants, and even the underground currency exchange to do one thing: spread the film critiques he had written. Film analysis is crucial for a movie. Take Let the Bullets Fly, for example. Without overwhelming analyses from all sides, it would have merely been a brilliant work. But once those deep, detailed analyses spread, it was instantly elevated to legendary status. Thus, a week after The Rescued Bobo was released in various countries, critiques from all sides were published and quickly spread among the populace. Is Bobo's name actually a reference to Uchiha? Leaf Fire City, Land of Fire, Konoha, isn't that just Konoha Village? The bounty hunter character is significant. He has 6 fingers, suggesting many hands. Who has many hands? The Senju. The domestic pig and the plum blossom deer burned to death in the final fire, along with the butterfly fluttering over the blaze. Aren't they hinting at Inoshika Cho? This director is a fool genius. I get it, I get it. This movie is alluding to Konoha's history. Back then, Uchiha Madara was frustrated and unsuccessful, but he met Senju Hashirama. The two worked together to suppress the ninja world and later established Konoha village. Senju Hashirama died. Uchiha Madara wasn't chosen as Hokage, he rebelled and left, and then returned to the village to cause chaos. It's exactly like Bobo, except that Bobo succeeded in his revenge, while Uchiha Madara died. Himawari, the lackey who, despite being a slave herself, helped oppress other slaves, isn't that a portrait of the Hyuga clan? I heard those guys value hierarchy and status above all else, and are even cruel to their own branch family. She is the complete embodiment of that Himawari character. The rumors this time were more than 10 times greater than those sparked by The Godfather, leading to intense discussions across various countries. The Godfather's allusions were too obvious. Though explosive, there wasn't much room for deep analysis. The rescued Bobo was different. The deeper you dug, the more content you found, and even ordinary passers-by couldn't help but join the discussion. Keigaya Tetsu had originally prepared backup plans to fuel the hype and boost the movie's popularity, but he found it unnecessary. The public was simply too enthusiastic, requiring no intervention from him. Did Hiruzen Sarutobi steal Uchiha Madara's woman, causing Uchiha Madara to launch a rebellion in anger, only to fail and be killed? Did Senju Hashirama, the god of shinobi, die suddenly because Hiruzen Sarutobi assassinated him, corresponding exactly to the plot where the city lord kills the bounty hunter? Does Bobo's lost wife in the movie actually symbolize the position of Hokage, implying Uchiha Madara lost the Hokage seat? Are the secret financial backers of this movie the Uchiha and Senju, with the two clans intending to cooperate and jointly seize Konoha? Keigaya Tetsu couldn't help but twitch his mouth as he read the various analyses. Wait, did I even mean that when I wrote the script? This is like a reading comprehension test where the original author can't answer a single question. Forget it. If the audience says it's there, then it's there. He certainly didn't mind Konoha having a little more chaos. While he was enjoying the show, Udatane Kaharu, who was in charge of public opinion and propaganda, was also having a massive headache. Are your eyes blind? You couldn't see such obvious illusions. The usually gentle-tempered woman was uncharacteristically furious at the members of the review board. The review board members lowered their heads, afraid to speak. They were also helpless. The rescued Bobo was shot too obscurely, the censorship staff simply didn't notice. Furthermore, they couldn't tell Udatane Kaharu that during the review, most of their attention was focused on the Jade Feet, and they hadn't paid much attention to the movie's plot. It wasn't entirely their fault for being lecherous. Keigaya Tetsu's move was simply too vicious. The ninja world lacked entertainment, and Konoha emphasized being noble, glorious, and correct, leading everyone to suppress their desires. Even a suggestive novel like ICHA Paradise could sell well, let alone a meticulously produced movie like this. Which cadre could withstand such a test? After a lengthy scolding, Udatane Kaharu knew this wouldn't solve the problem, so she quickly went to Danzo to start formulating a countermeasure. As for the third Hokage, he no longer had time to consult with his old friends. The Hokage office was currently crowded with over a dozen people, all arguing furiously. Uchiha Fugaku, Hyuga Hiyashi, Nara Shikaku, Inoichi Yamanaka, Akamichi Choji, all the prominent clan heads of Konoha had gathered. It's no exaggeration to say that if a tailed beast ball were thrown into this office right now, the entire upper echelon of Konoha would be wiped out. Clan head Fugaku, our Hyuga clan has never had a deep hatred for the Uchiha. It shouldn't come to this, should it? To depict our Ino Shika Cho as livestock, Fugaku, your clansmen have truly gone too far this time. Fugaku, I believe this wasn't your intention, but I truly don't believe that no one from the Uchiha was involved. The clan heads were enraged and launched attacks against Uchiha Fugaku. Even the usually moderate Hyuga Hiyashi and Nara Shikaku were boiling with anger. Last time, the Godfather mainly targeted the dispute over the third Hokage position, which didn't concern the major clans much, so they remained silent. But, the rescued Bobo was different. It indirectly mocked all the Konoha clans, portraying them as the Hokage's lackeys, livestock, and even suggesting they were accomplices in the death of the first Hokage. How could they possibly sit still? The clan heads weren't fools. They had already heard of Keigaya Tetsu and knew that the Godfather was his work, so this time was likely the same. The problem was that the various illusions in the movie matched the images and personalities of the major ninja clans too well, and the utilization of Konoha history was incredibly subtle. They absolutely didn't believe a mere brat from the Hidden Mist village could understand them so thoroughly, so there was only one truth. The movie might indeed have been funded by the Hidden Mist village, but the Uchiha definitely had an insider helping out. Ever since Uchiha Madara's rebellion, the resentment held by the major clans toward the Uchiha had been deeply rooted. Furthermore, the police force's overly strict enforcement usually led to many ninja clan members being beaten, which further fueled everyone's negative opinion of the Uchiha. Furthermore, Uchiha Shisui's eyes made them deeply wary. Even if the Uchiha truly had no insider, what if Uchiha Shisui used his eyes to manipulate others into carrying out this conspiracy? In their view, someone within the Uchiha might still harbor malicious intent, even hoping to cooperate with the Senju to first smear the reputation of the other Konoha clans via the movie, and then seize power when the opportunity arose. This touched their sensitive spot. They had cooperated with the Hokage to suppress the Uchiha for years. If an Uchiha truly became Hokage, would they still get a good outcome? Therefore, they insisted that Fugaku, as clan head, was inescapable of blame and must provide an explanation. Facing the spittle flying everywhere, Uchiha Fugaku couldn't hold back anymore and suddenly roared. Enough! A formidable aura erupted from him, and his three Tomo Sharingan slowly rotated. The others snorted coldly but reluctantly closed their mouths. Fugaku nearly exposed his Mangekyo Sharingan. Clan heads, you have no evidence whatsoever. What right do you have to assume that the Uchiha have an insider? I will thoroughly investigate this matter. If there truly is an insider, I will hand them over to the village for public trial and let you deal with them as you wish. But let me state clearly, the Uchiha bear absolutely no ill will toward the village or the other clans. He was not made of clay. This incident had once again plunged the Uchiha's reputation to rock bottom. Many ninja clan members had run to the Uchiha clan compound demanding answers and had injured several Uchiha clansmen. Fugaku was on the verge of exploding. The Hyuga clan was harshly slandered in the movie, and Hyuga Hiyashi held great resentment. Hearing this, he let out a cold snort. Clan head Fugaku, do you intend to be both the referee and the player? I suggest that all clans directly form a joint investigation team to enter the Uchiha clan compound and investigate together. Uchiha Fugaku flew into a rage. Clan head Hiyashi, do you think the Uchiha are just decorations? For a major clan to allow outsiders to freely enter their compound and investigate would be an absolute humiliation. Seeing that everyone was about to start arguing again, Hiruzen Sarutobi slammed the table. Alas! Hearing this sigh, everyone fell silent. The village is facing a crisis, yet you are busy arguing. This is how Konoha's promising future is being ruined. Hiruzen Sarutobi said, sweeping his tired eyes over the crowd. Look at yourselves. Every one of you holds high positions and great power, every one of you is a pillar of Konoha. Yet you are rotten internally, my heart is breaking. Lord Tobirama entrusted the village to me, and it has come to this state. I am utterly distressed. I have sinned against Konoha, failed the first Hokage, and failed the six-path sage. I wish I could dismiss myself. You start fighting amongst yourselves after the slightest provocation from the enemy. I advise you all to turn out your hearts, lungs, and guts, air them out, wash them clean, and straighten yourselves up. I am realizing more and more clearly that Konoha's critical threat is not external, but internal. It is right here in the Hokage office. If things rot a little here, a large part of Konoha village rots. If all of you rot, the other villages will launch massive sieges, leaving us nowhere to be buried. I haven't closed my eyes for 3 days and 3 nights, constantly thinking about what to say to everyone. But words need a starting point. After much thought, there are only 4 characters. These 4 characters are easy to say, but how difficult is it to put them into practice? These 4 characters were dug out from my heart, pulled out from a sea of blood, and they are hanging right outside the door of this office. Hiruzen Sarutobi suddenly stood up, pointed to the plaque outside, and loudly spoke those 4 characters. Will of fire. He was also quite furious. Despite all his precautions, he had still fallen into a trap. He wanted to send the Anbu to arrest Kunmaki, but that man was a famous director who traveled through various countries and had close ties with many daimyo. Even if they caught him, what good would it do if he refused to talk? Konoha's public opinion environment could no longer withstand any more turmoil. Moreover, the incident had already occurred, and the top priority was finding a solution. His intention in calling the clan heads today was to deliberate together, but these guys started internal strife instead, which made him very angry. When Lord Tobirama was in power, everyone in the village was relatively united. How did it end up like this now? He took a deep look at Uchiha Fugaku, whose face was full of grievance. Honestly, he believed Fugaku. But Shisui's Koto Amatsukami had created a permanent rift in his trust for the Uchiha. Everyone else was right. Even if Fugaku and the other clansmen were innocent, what if Shisui used those eyes to secretly manipulate someone into doing this? What was worse was that, the rescued Bobo, also involved the Senju, suggesting they might join forces with the Uchiha, a situation Hiruzen Sarutobi absolutely could not allow. Even if the hidden mist village was merely sowing discord and fabricating rumors, he had to be vigilant. What if someone saw these analyses and genuinely started harboring such thoughts? This was an open scheme. After much deliberation, he reluctantly said to Fugaku. Fugaku, please recall all your clansmen recently. Have them stay and rest in the clan compound, they won't need to go on missions for now. He had to appease the emotions of the major clan heads. Given the current relationship between the Uchiha and the other Konoha clans, joint operations were temporarily impossible. Prohibiting the Uchiha from going to the battlefield, merely asking them to stay quietly within their compound, was already a very generous measure. Fugaku was stunned, then nodded painfully. Yes, Hokage-sama. On the border of the Land of Fire, a 4-person Konoha squad was cautiously advancing through the forest. Recently, several squads had gone missing near the border, and even 2 Jonin were unaccounted for. Additionally, several border villages had been completely massacred, leaving no survivors. The village suspected the hidden sand village was responsible, but lacking evidence, they immediately dispatched personnel to investigate the situation. Strange, there's nothing here. The Jonin leading the squad frowned deeply, muttering in confusion. They arrived at the spot where the previous squad had fired their last flare, but found nothing, not even a trace of blood. Having experienced countless battles, he had never encountered a situation like this. It was as if his missing comrades had simply vanished into thin air. A few drops of sweat beaded on his forehead. He made a gesture, signaling his 3 teammates to be completely vigilant. The green leaves rustled slightly, and the Jonin captain quickly looked toward the upper left. A mysterious ninja silently appeared on a tree trunk, observing them with folded arms. The figure wore an unmarked black cloak and a tiger-striped mask. The areas where the eyes should be were pitch black, obscuring their gaze. Enemy attack. The Jonin captain shouted, but realized his 3 teammates hadn't moved. He turned his head and was too terrified to speak. He saw that all 3 men had distorted expressions, their bodies seemingly sucked in by something invisible, instantly turning into several afterimages that vanished into the mysterious ninja's eye socket. No wonder the previous squads left no trace, they were sucked away. The Jonin captain had never seen such a terrifying ninjutsu, but his long-cultivated battle instincts made him react immediately. Fire release. Great Dragon Fire Technique. He immediately used a fire release technique, which Konoha ninja were most proficient in. A massive dragon head roared as it flew toward the mysterious ninja, instantly turning the area into a sea of flames. Behind me. How is that possible? The Jonin captain sensed movement behind him and stabbed out a kunai without turning his head. At this range, the opponent definitely couldn't escape. But then, something even more terrifying happened. His kunai simply pierced through the opponent's body, yet the figure showed no reaction, merely staring at him calmly. The next second, he felt a powerful suction force rush toward him, completely irresistible. Everything went black, and he knew nothing more. Boring. Uchiha Obito's muffled voice came from beneath the mask. After consecutively wiping out several Konoha squads and massacring several villages, he hadn't even needed to perform a single hand sign. Obito shook his head, his body dissolving into a swirling vortex before disappearing. The forest fell silent once more. In a dimly lit underground cave somewhere, Uchiha Madara heard the commotion and slightly raised his head. Your speed is getting faster, Obito. He rarely offered praise. It's just that these guys are too weak. Uchiha Obito released several unconscious Konoha ninja from the alternate dimension and instructed the nearby spiral white Zetsu. Put them in the warehouse. These individuals were living tools for him to practice ninjutsu on, he couldn't kill them yet. Spiral white Zetsu gestured wildly and exaggeratedly. Wow. These are Jonin, Obito. How can you talk about them like they're just ants you crushed? You're amazing. He then leaned closer and asked cheekily. Since I praised you so much, can you tell me what it feels like to poop now? Obito gritted his teeth and raised his fist. Spiral White Zetsu quickly dodged and scurried off to move the captives to the warehouse. He took off his mask, sat cross-legged in front of Uchiha Madara, and complained. Madara, this kind of thing is pointless. The third Hokage, that old tortoise, isn't taking the bait. Recently, the situation in the ninja world had been relatively stable. Although various nations were making loud threats, none intended to start a fight. Thus, Uchiha Madara had Obito secretly strike, eliminate Konoha ninja, and then pin the blame on the hidden sand village to provoke conflict between the two villages. As a result, Hiruzen Sarutobi remained completely unfazed. He merely questioned the hidden sand village a few times and did nothing else, which greatly frustrated Obito. Initially, he was quite excited about killing those Konoha ninja. Two of them he even recognized as people who used to look down on him, the dead last, but now, facing his attack, they couldn't last even 10 seconds. But after killing too many, Obito started finding the slaughter boring. Defeating mere Jonin, even elite Jonin, no longer excited him. Uchiha Madara let out a dry laugh. Hey, your appetite is certainly growing. Currently, he was quite satisfied with this pawn of his. After helping Obito complete his Mangekyo Sharingan, the brat's strength had increased tenfold, if not more. Coupled with the guidance of him, the Asura of the ninja world, the 13-year-old Obito already possessed cage-level strength, and this was far from his limit. It was just that Obito still lacked some combat experience, and his intelligence seemed somewhat lacking. Sure enough, Uchiha Obito suggested. Let's just forget about Konoha. I'll go to the Hidden Mist village right now, kill the Mizukage, and then use the Sharingan to make the Six Tails Jinchuriki rampage, manipulating Hidden Mist into starting a war. Hearing the words Hidden Mist village, he felt a rush of blood to his head. He hated Kakashi, he hated Minato Namikaze, he hated Konoha, and he hated this hellish world. But all that hatred combined was less than 1/10,000th of the hatred he felt for Hidden Mist. Obito had wanted to rush to the Hidden Mist village for revenge long ago, but Uchiha Madara always told him the time wasn't right and restrained him. Obito still greatly respected the old man. Leaving aside the fact that he saved him and helped him complete his Mangekyo Sharingan, Uchiha Madara's unfathomable strength alone meant he couldn't be casually disobeyed. No matter how foolish Obito was, he wouldn't truly regard Uchiha Madara as a defenseless old man. Uchiha Madara slowly shook his head. Don't rush the Hidden Mist matter. Our provocation of Konoha and Sunagakure is merely a minor step, just adding fuel to the fire. Even if we don't act, the flames of war will soon reignite, and they will definitely be far more intense than before. He had fought countless wars and was intimately familiar with the current equilibrium of the ninja world continent. Since none of the villages achieved a decisive victory before being forced to stop fighting, the resentment in people's hearts would only accumulate, eventually erupting into even more terrifying fury. Uchiha Madara's goal was to throw the ninja world into complete chaos so that his pawn would have the opportunity to fully mature, revive him, and implement the Eye of the Moon plan. If Obito couldn't resist causing havoc in the Hidden Mist village, it would introduce too many variables into his plan. He wouldn't allow Obito to take such risks just for a dead girl. Even if he did allow Obito to take revenge on the Hidden Mist village, it would have to wait until the war restarted, making it easier to capitalize on the chaos. Obito scoffed. It's all Kagaya Tetsu's fault. If he hadn't interfered, the war wouldn't have paused, and I could have gotten my revenge sooner. Since White Zetsu's intelligence network covered the entire ninja world, they naturally knew about Kagaya Tetsu, and had even watched both movies. Uchiha Madara nodded. That brat is indeed somewhat interesting. The Hidden Mist village was originally at a disadvantage, but that brat forcibly used countless tricks to disrupt the ninja world, causing the inland nations to restrain each other, thereby buying the Hidden Mist village time to recuperate. Especially the war of public opinion, Uchiha Madara, who only knew slaughter, had never seen such a tactic. When he read the investigation report on the Uchiha resistance movement, even his calm heart couldn't help but be stirred, feeling a trace of injustice for that useless clan. Furthermore, that pamphlet praised him extensively, emphasizing the righteousness of his resistance against Konoha back then, which he couldn't help but appreciate. Of course, his impression of Kagaya Tetsu was merely, somewhat interesting. Uchiha Obito's eyes flashed fiercely, that brat is growing very fast. Should we send White Zetsu to keep an eye on him? Uchiha Madara sneered. The brilliant geniuses Hashirama and I killed back then are more numerous than those you've even seen. White Zetsu are few in number and not perfectly invisible. You must keep your composure and not expose yourself for just any random enemy. Back then, Hashirama and I. As soon as he mentioned Hashirama, the usually taciturn Uchiha Madara began rambling. Uchiha Obito was used to this, so he waited for him to finish his monologue and began to ponder. Madara is simply afraid that if I strike too harshly against the Hidden Mist village, it will draw too much attention and expose the plan. So what if I don't directly retaliate against the Hidden Mist village, but instead find a way to secretly deal with Kagaya Tetsu? Eliminating the Hidden Mist's most famous genius would let those maggots feel pain, slightly appeasing my hatred, without causing too massive a reaction. It's truly killing two birds with one stone. I can't tell Madara about this. He's too old and too timid, he definitely wouldn't allow it. Obito suddenly had a flash of inspiration, and the more he thought about it, the more excited he became. On the vast ocean, a pirate ship flying a black flag sailed slowly, with lively singing drifting from it. Captain Tadokuro Koji sat in the cabin, picked up a piece of tuna from the bubbling sukiyaki pot, and swallowed it with satisfaction. Thanks to the captain's wisdom, after this haul, we can eat meat for half a year. The first mate sat nearby, raising his wine glass and loudly flattering him, drawing excited agreement from dozens of pirates. They had robbed several fishing boats this time and had a bountiful harvest, enough to go ashore and enjoy themselves. Tadokuro Koji laughed triumphantly. Haha, those stupid ninja fight to the death, how can they be as happy as us pirates? The first mate nodded eagerly. Yes, yes, and the sea is ours to roam, not even the Mizukage can catch us. Almost no one in the inland villages pays attention to the sea, and the only Hidden Mist village that could possibly control the sea is very weak, with only a few ships in its fleet. So, in the ninja world's oceans, pirates are the strongest force. Shish. Tadokuro Koji quickly covered his mouth tightly, telling him to stop talking. The Mizukage can't catch us, but Kagaya Tetsu can. He cautiously glanced outside the cabin and lowered his voice. I received a messenger seagull this morning saying that the treasure had also disappeared. This is already the third pirate ship to disappear this month. Hearing him say this, the atmosphere among the pirates immediately cooled. Recently, there had indeed been rumors at sea that Kagaya Tetsu of Hidden Mist Village was actively suppressing pirates everywhere. That kid was young but incredibly strong. No pirate was his match. Any pirates who unfortunately encountered him all vanished without a trace, which was terrifying. The first mate chuckled awkwardly. Don't worry, Captain, how could it be such a coincidence? Bang! With a soft thud, a hole was suddenly punched in the sukiyaki pot on the table. Everyone looked on in horror, seeing a small hole in the thick deck, clearly indicating an enemy attack. Kagaya Tetsu must be here. Dozens of meters away from the pirate ship, Kagaya Tetsu stood at the bow with his companions. Tetsu, did you hit it? Mate Terumi watched him fire a bone bullet at the pirate ship, excitedly looking out from the bow. Zabuza frowned. Why haven't they stopped yet? Kagaya Tetsu crossed his arms and smiled faintly. Don't rush, let the bone bullet fly for a bit. Before long, the pirate ship raised a white flag and quickly dropped anchor. How boring, I wanted a boarding battle. Zabuza put away his sword in disappointment. Kagaya Tetsu chuckled, muttering softly. If you like boarding battles, then you should believe in the emperor. He turned and shouted to the helmsman. Bring the ship closer. A moment later, the three boarded the pirate ship and saw Tadokuro Koji and his crew trembling with fear. Tadokuro Koji glared fiercely at the first mate, silently cursing him for being a jinx. His pirate crew, eating hotpot and singing songs, were suddenly intercepted. Where could they go to reason with that? Tadokuro Koji plopped down on his knees and skillfully burst into tears. Please spare us, sirs. We were forced into this line of work. My mother, wife, and children at home. He crawled over, hugged Kagaya Tetsu's leg, and wailed for mercy. Staying alive is not shameful. With a thud, Kagaya Tetsu placed a wound-up alarm clock on the deck. Where did you hide the money? Tell me before time runs out, or your heads will roll. Hearing this, Tadokuro Koji cried even louder. Crying counts as time too. Tadokuro Koji immediately stopped his tears and quickly ordered the first mate, bring our safe over. As the safe filled with valuables was presented, the pirates' faces turned ashen, thinking they wouldn't survive. To their surprise, Kagaya Tetsu whispered. Do you want to make big money? Not by robbing those poor fishing boats, but by robbing the merchant ships of Konoha and Kumogakure. The pirates were stunned, all thinking they had misheard. Konoha and Kumogakure were the richest and second richest powers in the ninja world, respectively. Robbing just one of their merchant ships could keep them afloat for at least 2 or 3 years without needing another haul. Tadokuro Koji certainly wanted to rob them, but the problem was, he didn't dare. Lord Tetsu, Konoha and Kumogakure merchant ships often have ninja escorts, we are no match for them. Tadokuro Koji explained nervously. Kagaya Tetsu slapped him on the head. Fool, why don't you team up with other pirates? Most merchant ship escorts are just chunin. As long as there are enough people, robbing them shouldn't be a problem. Tadokuro Koji rubbed his head bitterly. He had, of course, thought of this, but there was another problem. Lord Mizukage wouldn't agree, would he? The land of water also suffered greatly from pirates. In fact, most pirates originated from the land of water. Therefore, combating pirates was a consensus among Konoha, Kumogakure, and Hidden Mist. Although the Hidden Mist fleet wasn't particularly strong, it constantly patrolled the seas. If any pirate dared to extensively plunder merchant ships and was caught by Hidden Mist, they would also face severe consequences. Kagaya Tetsu raised his hand and waved a certificate in front of him. As long as you agree, this certificate is yours. Tadokuro Koji scanned the text on the certificate and was utterly stunned. It read, in view of the repeated attacks on Hidden Mist Village civilian ships, armed self-defense rights are hereby granted to armed civilian ships. Armed civilian ships may choose to counterattack when attacked, without being prosecuted by Hidden Mist. This certificate is only valid when armed civilian ships counterattack attackers from other countries. If they dare to attack Hidden Mist ships, they will be dealt with according to the anti-piracy law. Below the certificate were the Mizukage's personal signature and the official seal of Hidden Mist Village. Armed, civilian ships. Tadokuro Koji felt he knew every word, but put together, he didn't understand what it meant. Civilian ships can be armed. And armed ships are still called civilian ships. He couldn't help but want to ask what was going on, but Kagaya Tetsu raised a hand to interrupt him. Don't ask. Whoever asks dies. The privateer policy, this was his second insidious plan, besides making movies. To put it plainly, it was to issue a certificate to selected pirates, giving them the status of armed civilian ships, allowing them to legally rob enemy ships without punishment from Hidden Mist Village. When Great Britain and other great powers competed for maritime hegemony, they were the first to use this tactic. Because their own navy ships were insufficient, they could neither completely eliminate enemy fleets nor thoroughly combat pirates. In that case, it was better to directly recruit pirates and let them attack enemy ships. The benefits of doing this were obvious. Pirates could openly rob without fear of being hunted by their own country, and their country could use this to drive pirates outward, while greatly saving on fleet maintenance costs. At this moment, it was just like that time. Hidden Mist Village's shipbuilding technology was advanced, but it didn't have much money in its coffers and couldn't control the sea. There were also many pirates in the nearby waters, so it was perfect to repurpose them to deal with Konoha and Kumogakure. As for whether these legal pirates would in turn rob Hidden Mist merchant ships, or whether other villages would do the same, Kagaya Tetsu wasn't worried. Because after Hidden Mist closed its borders, its merchant ships were few and far between, with little profit to be made. As long as pirates weren't foolish, they would know which targets were more lucrative. If occasionally some pirates were truly blind, Kagaya Tetsu wouldn't mind eliminating them. Anyway, his system map's detection range had expanded. As long as he found a question mark on the sea, it was most likely a pirate ship, making it easy to locate. Konoha and Kumogakure's counterattacks were also not an issue. These two land-based powers had almost no naval strength, and their control over pirate forces was far inferior to Hidden Mist's. In any case, the advantage was on his side. Keigaya Tetsu looked at the pirates whose eyes were gleaming, and finally said. Several groups of pirates have already been granted certificates. They're busy robbing near the Land of Fire and the Land of Lightning. If you go too late, there won't be any meat left for you to eat. Tadokuro Koji suddenly realized. No wonder those few pirates had recently disappeared. It turned out they had already left this sea area to make a fortune. They called each other brothers, but they didn't invite him to the party, huh? He immediately kowtowed repeatedly. Thank you, Lord Keigaya Tetsu. We want certificates too. He was so excited, never expecting such an opportunity to get rich. Keigaya Tetsu nodded in satisfaction. Remember, from now on you are no longer pirates. You are armed civilian ships with legitimate self-defense rights. January 31st, 2 ships transporting iron ore were attacked. February 3rd, a merchant ship heading to Kumogakure to sell grain was attacked. February 10th, 5 Nara clan medicine merchant ships were attacked, and all the escorting ninja were wiped out. Hiruzen Sarutobi's brows were tightly furrowed as he read the report. Recently, pirates have been rampant, and attacks on merchant ships along the Konoha coast have been frequent. Some pirates even formed groups to attack, and the merchant ship escorts couldn't stop them at all. Homura Mitokado, who was in charge of commercial trade, said with a worried expression. Hiruzen, according to survivors, the Hidden Mist Patrol fleet was clearly not far away at the time, but they didn't offer any help at all, allowing the pirates to attack civilian ships and then leave freely. I wonder, is this a new trick from the Hidden Mist Village? Could the Hidden Mist Village dare to defy the world's condemnation and openly condone pirate looting? Homura, immediately write a letter to the Hidden Mist Village to inquire. Hiruzen Sarutobi decisively ordered. They received a reply a day later, and the two almost vomited blood from anger. The Hidden Mist Village actually claimed that these pirates were armed civilian ships, holding certificates issued by the Mizukage-sama, and were merely exercising their right to self-defense. Even Danzo, after reading this letter, exclaimed, "Is that even possible? Is that even possible?" Even the darkness of the ninja world, who had been active in the ninja world for decades, had never thought of such a maneuver. It was beyond shameless, it was simply utterly shameless. The Hidden Mist Village indeed didn't dare to openly support pirates, but they directly legalized certain pirates. Konoha, however, had no good solution, as their military strength was concentrated on land, with almost no operations at sea. But this matter absolutely couldn't be ignored. Konoha had a long coastline, and its maritime trade was very developed. If it were affected by the Hidden Mist Village, the already stretched budget would become even more unsustainable. After all, the Third Great Ninja War was only paused, not over. When the war restarted, Konoha would have to face enemies from several directions simultaneously. Danzo immediately suggested. It's simple, we also recruit a group of pirates, legalize them, and then attack the Land of Water. This was something he was most skilled at, and he could do it with ease. Hiruzen Sarutobi flatly refused. No. Most of the pirates come from the Land of Water. If we were to compare the number of pirates, we really wouldn't be their match. Moreover, once things escalate and they are pushed too hard, releasing more pirates, the situation would become even more dangerous. To ease the conflict between the Uchiha and other clans, Konoha temporarily prohibited the Uchiha from fighting, which meant losing an elite main force and not having much leisure to deal with pirates. In addition, Hiruzen Sarutobi had other concerns. Danzo couldn't help but let out a cold snort. He knew his old comrade best. He definitely didn't want to issue legal certificates to pirates in the name of the Hokage. Hokage-sama, the great and righteous son of Konoha, how could he adopt such a shameless approach and collude with pirates? Even Root couldn't do this on his behalf. The certificates from the Land of Water had the Mizukage's signature, leaving no room for fault. If Konoha wanted to do the same, it would require the Hokage's personal approval, and there would be no way to shift the blame to Danzo. Homura Mitokado shook his head and sighed. It's that Keigaya Tetsu's idea again. That brat is truly hateful. Anbu's intelligence gathering was quite efficient. They had already confirmed that the rescued Bobo and the armed civilian ship plan were both Keigaya Tetsu's doing. It seemed that the hidden mist brat was far more sinister than they had imagined. Danzo complained mercilessly. HMPH, if Uchiha Shisui hadn't been so useless then, that brat should have died in the land of hot springs. Hiruzen Sarutobi waved his hand, talking about that is useless, let's find a solution. Homura Mitokado pressed, Hiruzen, do you have a solution? Hiruzen Sarutobi nodded. Immediately write a letter, strongly condemning them. Danzo and Homura Mitokado exchanged glances, both seeing helplessness in the other's eyes. When in doubt, strongly condemn, that was Hiruzen Sarutobi's old trick. A lengthy condemnation letter of tens of thousands of words was sent to the Hidden Mist Village, mainly questioning why the Hidden Mist Village did not abide by the agreement to combat pirates and lamenting the dangers of rampant piracy. Keigaya Tetsu didn't even look at it, throwing it directly into the trash can. This thing was too rough even to wipe one's backside. He had accurately calculated that Hiruzen Sarutobi, out of concern for his reputation, would not take reciprocal measures. As long as Konoha's homeland was not directly attacked, the Hokage would not do anything. So Keigaya Tetsu also issued orders to those pirates. They were not to outright rob Konoha merchant ships, but to rob them slowly, gradually, and rhythmically, so as not to push Konoha too hard, focusing on a slow bleeding. Because of his understanding of Hiruzen Sarutobi's temperament, he could always precisely hit that balance point, harming Konoha without causing the Hokage to completely lose his composure. Compared to Konoha, Kumogakure, which was also being robbed, was much tougher. Keigaya Tetsu, what exactly do you want? Do you really think we in Kumogakure won't act? Omori, the Kumogakure ambassador, sat brazenly in front of Keigaya Tetsu, threatening loudly. Next to him sat the president of the Kumogakure Chamber of Commerce, whose large belly trembled from Omori's roar. Kumogakure lacked people and food, relying more on maritime trade than Konoha. The recent privateer attacks were truly deadly. The third Raikage wished he could immediately storm the Hidden Mist Village and severely punish Keigaya Tetsu, but now the four great inland villages were all eyeing each other. If any village lost its patience and made a move, it would be swarmed by the other villages and violently attacked from behind. The third Raikage didn't want to be that scapegoat, so he first sent an envoy to talk with the Hidden Mist Village. As the designer and executor of the policy, Keigaya Tetsu naturally served as the Hidden Mist's negotiation representative. He set up a banquet and invited Omori to have a good chat, but Omori didn't have that much time and directly asked what the Hidden Mist Village wanted. Hehe, Lord Omori, please calm down. What else could we in Hidden Mist be doing? We're merely protecting our village's civilian ships from being bullied. Keigaya Tetsu poured him a cup of wine and said with a calm smile. Omori's dark, strong arm muscles suddenly tensed. If he hadn't heard of Keigaya Tetsu's combat strength and knew that this brat wasn't as weak as he seemed, he would have already thrown a punch. Shamelessly robbing everywhere and calling it protecting civilian ships. Smack. He couldn't help but slam the rice bowl on the table, angrily rebuking. Keigaya Tetsu, I don't have time to argue with you. On behalf of the Raikage-sama, I'll ask one last time, what exactly do you want? After saying that, he flipped the rice bowl over and carefully swept the grains of rice on the table into it. Food was precious in Kumogakure, and the ninja had developed a good habit of not wasting anything. Seeing that the time was ripe, Keigaya Tetsu calmly put forward his demand. It's very simple. In our upcoming actions, your Kumogakure village should not interfere. Omori immediately understood. It seemed this privateer plan was just a facade. The Hidden Mist village's true objective wasn't this. Before he could ask further, Keigaya Tetsu continued. Don't worry, this plan won't harm your Kumogakure village, but it will harm Konoha. You just need to ensure you don't intervene. If you agree, our armed civilian ships will naturally bypass Kumogakure merchant ships. Keigaya Tetsu's real goal was for the Hidden Mist village to occupy the southern land of hot water. Konoha and Kumogakure were the two major powerful enemies closest to the land of hot springs. As long as Kumogakure didn't interfere then, the Hidden Mist's plan to take that land would proceed much more smoothly. Omori frowned. If it was truly as Keigaya Tetsu said, then Kumogakure agreeing wasn't impossible. But Kumogakure was a nation of warriors. The Hidden Mist village had seemingly given nothing, merely conjuring something out of thin air. If Kumogakure were to simply swallow its pride, Omori would be very unwilling. At this moment, the president of the Kumogakure Chamber of Commerce, who had been silent, spoke. Lord Omori, in my opinion, Chei-kun's suggestion can be considered. If things get out of hand, it will be difficult to resolve, and we Kumogakure merchants still need to do business. The president was in great pain, several of his merchant ships had sunk recently, and if this continued, his businesses would suffer a huge blow. He didn't care how those ninja fought, he only cared if he could make money. Omori snorted coldly, casting a displeased glance at the president. These merchants only cared about profit and didn't care about the village's honor. However, he had no other good solution, so he just nodded. I will go back and report to the third Raikage-sama. In the southern land of hot water, several hidden mist squads secretly climbed ashore under the cover of night. Hu Hansen, no, Keigaya Tetsu, I'm back again. Keigaya Tetsu looked at the land in the night and sighed softly. More than half a year had passed since his battle with Shisui. At that time, he couldn't last half a minute against him. Now, although he wouldn't dare to say he could defeat Shisui, he felt confident about a 50-50 fight. However, his return this time was not for revenge against Shisui. Tetsu, all 15 people are ashore. Mei Terumi's voice came from behind him. Keigaya Tetsu gently squeezed her soft, fair hand. You've worked hard, Captain. Mei Terumi rolled her beautiful Byakugan. Elder, you are the commander-in-chief of our unit. Nominally, Mei Terumi was still Keigaya Tetsu's superior, but Keigaya Tetsu had become a member of the Council of Elders and had recently gained significant fame, regarded by many as the Hidden Mist's top genius. His actual status far exceeded Mei Terumi's. Mei Terumi's words were a bit sour, but she felt very proud inside. Which girl doesn't hope that the person she likes is outstanding? Moreover, the thought of this high-ranking elder often being caught by her and begging for mercy in private made Mei Terumi instinctively lick her red lips. Zabuza had long been accustomed to their flirting and asked on his own accord. Can we go eliminate the target immediately? He looked like a skip player, thinking, I don't know who I am. I don't know where I am, I just know I need to go on a killing spree. Keigaya Tetsu shook his head. See, you're too impatient again. How can we kill them if we haven't even found the target? Their mission this time was to find the exiled former daimyo of the land of hot springs, kill him, and then seize control of the southern land of hot water. The land of hot springs now had two daimyo. The new daimyo, supported by Konoha, resided in the capital of hot water, which was under Konoha's control, serving as the head of a puppet regime. The former old daimyo, after the capital of hot water was occupied by Konoha and Yugakure was forced to disband, fled south with some loyalists and secretly formed an exiled government, but their location was unknown. The third Mizukage believed that one mountain could not tolerate two tigers, and to take the southern land of hot water, they had to eliminate the remnants of the old regime. So, he sent Keigaya Tetsu and Ao to split into two groups, working in tandem, each leading a squad to search for the target. Ao had already led another unit to land further north. Thanks to Keigaya Tetsu's preparations, the preliminary work was now complete. The rescued Bobo had completely ruined the relationship between the Uchiha clan and other Konoha ninja clans. According to reports from Hidden Mist spies, the Uchiha clan had been banned and would not be deployed to the battlefield for the time being. Konoha had thus lost its greatest elite force, and Minato and others had been transferred to the western front to guard the crumbling defenses. The privateering policy had dealt a huge blow to Konoha's economy. Now they could only concentrate their limited forces on the west and north, while the less threatened east was temporarily left to fend for itself. Keigaya Tetsu had also been bickering with Konoha, insisting that the so-called armed civilian ships were not pirates, but rather legitimate and legal, leaving Konoha helpless. At the same time, he didn't go too far, deliberately leaving a glimmer of hope for some Konoha merchant ships to facilitate future negotiations. As for Kumogakure, after Omoi conveyed Keigaya Tetsu's conditions to the third Raikage, the Raikage readily agreed. As long as Hidden Mist Village's subsequent actions did not harm their interests, he would not interfere. Kumogakure, if nothing else, if Keigaya Tetsu could really give Konoha a good beating, they would definitely help out. Keigaya Tetsu also kept his promise, restraining the major pirates and telling them to temporarily stay away from Kumogakure merchant ships. In short, with the two strongest villages in the ninja world currently distracted, Kagaya Tetsu felt that the opportunity to strike had arrived. Mei Terumi extended a slender finger and lightly touched her red lips. But how should we find the daimyo of the land of hot springs? The southern land of hot water was a power vacuum, a mixed bag of good and bad, making it difficult to ascertain his movements. Zabuza immediately spoke up. Simple, grab a few hot spring ninjas and ask them. I have ways to make them talk. He had recently learned a few interrogation techniques and was eager to try them out. Your suggestion is good, I suggest you don't suggest it next time. Kagaya Tetsu immediately rejected it. The Mizukage's order was to assassinate the daimyo, but his plan was not that simple. Moreover, rashly killing people could prematurely expose their whereabouts and attract unnecessary attention. He deliberately asked Mei Terumi. Captain, what do you think? Mei Terumi had already thought of a solution and smiled mischievously. Isn't it better if we don't look for him, but let him come to us? She intimately leaned into Kagaya Tetsu's ear, whispering her idea with warm breath. Mei, you smell so good. Kagaya Tetsu sniffed, unable to resist commenting, and Mei Terumi, blushing, lightly patted him. Zabuza watched with cold eyes, very impatient. If he ever acted alone in the future, he would definitely not bring any women with him. A few days later, in a small town in the southern land of hot water, a striking woman suddenly appeared. This woman was nearly 2 meters tall, as strong as an ox, with a round face that, while not ugly, lacked much of the feminine grace one would expect, immediately attracting many gazes. However, upon seeing the tens of pounds of iron rod on her back, those who were peeking quickly averted their eyes. Emi walked through the streets as if no one else was there, long accustomed to these strange looks and paying them no mind. Her father was an Akamichi clan member who had married a woman from the land of hot springs and settled in Kirigakure, where Emi was born. The Akamichi clan mastered secret techniques rather than bloodline limits, so they didn't restrict intermarriage with outsiders much. Emi had fully inherited the Akamichi genes. Upon adulthood, she was chosen as a daimyo's guard, and later exceptionally promoted to captain, faithfully fulfilling her duties. After the Third Great Ninja War began, Konoha invaded the land of hot springs. Her father refused the clan's summons and resolutely helped Kirigakure resist the Konoha squad, resulting in both him and his wife dying in battle. Before his death, he entrusted his daughter with the duty to protect the daimyo and ensure his escape. From that day on, she abandoned the surname, Akamichi. Under her escort, the daimyo safely fled and hid in the southern land of hot water. However, Emi recently heard rumors that a group of people were impersonating the daimyo's name, swindling and deceiving people in the southern region, causing widespread resentment. The daimyo was not overly concerned about this matter, but as the captain of his guards, she absolutely would not allow villains to tarnish the daimyo's reputation. Otherwise, when the daimyo eventually restored his country and reclaimed his throne, wouldn't he be subject to criticism? So, these past few days, Emi had been secretly investigating, hoping to find those detestable swindlers and punish them severely, so they wouldn't dare to repeat their actions. She followed the trail and finally discovered the whereabouts of those guys in this small town, and immediately rushed to find them. Just then, she heard a hawker's cry from ahead. Don't miss it, folks, the medicine personally used by the former daimyo of the land of hot springs. 1 pill lasts all night, 2 pills break through the heavens. If you want to be a man like an eagle, come buy it now. Each medicine comes with the daimyo's personal signature. She followed the sound and saw an unremarkable man holding a bottle of small blue pills, selling them on the street. This medicine perfectly met market demand, was marketed under the daimyo's name, and wasn't expensive, so many people were already queuing to buy it. I'm buying this for my friend. What a coincidence, me too. The customers all had their faces tightly covered, chatting awkwardly with each other. Emi was so angry she almost used the partial expansion jutsu. It was bad enough that these guys were selling fake products under the daimyo's name, but they were selling such indecent things. It was simply outrageous. She immediately wanted to rush up and overturn the medicine stall, but remembering the daimyo's repeated admonitions not to casually harm civilians, she gritted her teeth and held back for now, turning to report. Anyway, these guys wouldn't leave anytime soon, so she would have time to come back and punish them. She believed that once the daimyo heard about this, he would definitely agree to her taking action. As Emi hurried away, not far behind the fake medicine vendor, 3 figures had already secretly followed. Emi hurried out of the city, skillfully taking a country path into a bamboo forest, finally stopping in front of an unremarkable farmhouse within the woods. She knocked gently and regularly, then spoke the password, and only then did the guard behind the door let her in. Fujiwara Yujin, the former daimyo of the land of hot springs, was hiding here, accompanied by only a dozen trusted confidants from the capital of hot water and Yugakure. Emi arrived at the daimyo's room and reported softly. "My lord, I've found those swindlers." There was no movement from the room for a long time. Fearing that too much delay would allow the swindlers to escape, she gritted her teeth and pushed the door open, seeing Fujiwara Yujin hunched over a table, writing furiously. "My lord, I discovered that those swindlers are selling fake medicine in your name." Emi quickly reported the situation, but halfway through, Fujiwara Yujin raised a hand to interrupt her. "Quiet, I'm thinking." Emi bit her lip and had no choice but to step back 2 paces and wait silently. In her eyes, the daimyo was good in every way, except for one embarrassing little hobby. Writing books. Books similar to ICHA Paradise. Fujiwara Yujin had admired Jiraiya since childhood, which wasn't uncommon. The Sanin were idols to countless young people in the ninja world. The problem was that others wanted Jiraiya's strength, while only Fujiwara Yujin wanted Jiraiya's inspiration. As a subordinate, Emi couldn't say much. After a while, Fujiwara Yujin finally put down his pen and sighed softly. "What a pity, my new train of thought was interrupted." Then he looked towards the door. "Gentlemen, please come in." Emi was startled and looked behind her, only to see 3 hidden mist ninja slowly approaching. "Forgive us for coming uninvited." Kagaya Tetsu smiled and nodded. Mei Terumi asked in confusion, "How did you know someone had infiltrated?" Fujiwara Yujin carefully put away his draft and casually explained. The birdsong in the forest suddenly ceased, indicating that someone secretly shot the birds with shuriken to prevent them from startling the flock during infiltration and drawing the enemy's attention. Zabuza Momochi clicked his tongue in wonder. "You're not a ninja, how do you know such details?" He scrutinized Fujiwara Yujin. This guy was only in his 20s, with fair skin, a slender build, and thick black-rimmed glasses. He looked like a homebody good for nothing, not at all like a ninja. Fujiwara Yujin proudly explained. "I learned it from ICHA Paradise." There's a scene where a kunoichi is in her boudoir and suddenly notices the birdsong disappearing, realizing an enemy has infiltrated. Unfortunately, before she could react, the cunning enemy used a sleeping gas to knock her out, and she was tragically. "Stop." Kagaya Tetsu quickly cut him off. He noticed Mei Terumi looking at him with excitement, as if she had thought of some new game. Emi lowered her head in shame. "Lord Daimyo, it's my fault, I deserve to die." It was clear now, those swindlers were hidden mist ninja in disguise. When she found them, they also discovered her, and then followed her to the daimyo. Fujiwara Yujin gently comforted her. "Emi, you were doing it for me. It's not your fault." Akamichi clan members were naturally bad at disguise, it was only a matter of time before Emi was discovered. He looked at Kagaya Tetsu and said frankly. "Go ahead. Ninja battles always favored beheadings. These hidden mist ninja coming for him surely intended to kill him, leaving the remaining resistance forces of the land of hot springs leaderless. If nothing unexpected happened, the Yugakure ninja outside had already been dealt with, and the Yugakure had long been killed by Konoha. His resistance was meaningless. "I won't resist, but please don't hurt Emi, and don't destroy my manuscripts. Perhaps one day, a fated person will discover them." He added in a trembling voice. This young man, after all, could not hide his fear of death. Kagaya Tetsu pulled a stool in front of him, sat down, and smiled. "Who said we were going to kill you?" These words stunned Fujiwara Yujin. Only Mei Terumi and Zabuza Momochi showed no reaction. Kagaya Tetsu had already told them his plan. Kagaya Tetsu asked. "Fujiwara Yujin, your younger brother is the new daimyo of the land of hot springs, isn't he? That guy seems to have completely surrendered to Konoha. Tell me, do you want to restore your homeland and reclaim the position that rightfully belongs to you from your brother?" Fujiwara Yujin trembled all over, a flicker of light in his eyes. Brother, he hadn't thought of that title in a long time. At that time, his younger brother did not flee the capital of hot water, so he was supported by Konoha to become the new daimyo. In his impression, his brother was originally a gentle and peace-loving person, even less interested in the daimyo position than he was. But after becoming daimyo, his brother fawned over Konoha and actively offered advice, wanting to help Konoha quickly take over the southern land of hot water. He learned these things from the assassins his brother sent to kill him. If Emi hadn't been by his side, he would have died countless times. The light in Fujiwara Yujin's eyes quickly vanished, and he waved his hand indifferently. I just want to write books, nothing else matters. Writing a masterpiece comparable to ICHA Paradise was his lifelong dream. Kagaya Tetsu slapped his thigh. That's great then. As long as Fujiwara Yujin didn't refuse, it meant he agreed to cooperate. Of course, he remembered the Mizukage's order, but he didn't intend to obey it. He clearly understood the third Mizukage's calculations, Genshi had privately told him. After they killed Fujiwara Yujin, the Mizukage would lead the main hidden mist forces to sweep through the southern land of hot water in one fell swoop, securing the hidden mist village's first inland territory. In that case, Mizuno High's prestige in the land of water would be unprecedented, rivaling the first Mizukage. Genshi also told him that the Mizukage had invited Kagaya Daisuke to serve as the main force and act together. Kagaya Tetsu sneered inwardly, the Mizukage could allow subordinates to do anything, but absolutely not to become too powerful. As his own prestige grew, the Mizukage intended to win over Kagaya Daisuke to balance the forces. Kagaya Tetsu would, of course, not allow such a thing to happen. The southern land of hot water was his future base, destined to belong to him. How could he let other insignificant figures get involved? So he thought of using Fujiwara Yujin, the former daimyo. Most ninja were single-minded, only knowing how to kill, unaware that there were many ways to achieve a goal. For example, wasn't the current situation in the land of hot springs similar to the story of Emperor Yingzong of the Ming dynasty? The elder brother was in exile, while the younger brother sat on the throne, but the two factions were split, giving a third party an opportunity to exploit. Many people in the southern land of hot water still pledged allegiance to Fujiwara Yujin and scoffed at the puppet regime supported by Konoha. They dared not openly declare independence due to moral considerations, so Kagaya Tetsu planned to control the feudal lords by holding the emperor hostage, using Fujiwara Yujin to take over the southern land of hot water. What? You say Fujiwara Yujin's brother is the legitimate daimyo? Nonsense, was he elected? Fujiwara Yujin vaguely guessed what Kagaya Tetsu wanted to do. He didn't object. Objecting would be useless, so he simply nodded in acquiescence. By the way, those little blue pills you're selling, they won't kill people, will they? He suddenly remembered something and quickly asked. Kagaya Tetsu shook his head. They're just colored soldier pills. Fujiwara Yujin breathed a sigh of relief, took out his manuscript paper again. You can make me do anything, but don't disturb my writing. Seeing this, Kagaya Tetsu showed a satisfied smile. This daimyo, it seems, isn't as indifferent to everything as he appears. Suie City is a large city located in the southern land of hot water, guarding a crucial transportation hub and holding significant geographical importance. Lord Ito Hiro has been troubled recently. He just received an order from the daimyo of the land of hot springs, demanding that Suie City's tax contribution be increased by 50% next year to meet the needs of the capital of hot water. Konoha claims to protect the daimyo's safety, stationing nearly 1,000 ninja in the capital of hot water, and the expenses for these ninja are not small. Suie City's economic income was originally good, but after the war began, tourism was severely hit. Ito Hiro's own family didn't have much surplus, and suddenly having to pay 50% more tax made things even more difficult. If this continues, taxes will be collected 10 years in advance. He sighed and threw the daimyo's decree far away, as if that could make his troubles disappear. Just then, someone came to report. My lord, the daimyo suddenly appeared outside the city and demands entry. Ito Hiro was stunned. Did the daimyo come to collect in person? Is it that urgent? Quickly open the gates and welcome him. He didn't have time to think much. hastily starting to change his clothes, when his subordinate said with a strange expression. My lord, this daimyo is not the daimyo. Ito Hiro was full of questions, only understanding after hearing the explanation. It was the former daimyo, Fujiwara Yujin, who had arrived. Outside the city gate, Keigaya Tetsu stood behind Fujiwara Yujin, signaling him to speak. He and his teammates had all changed into the appearance of ordinary ninja, wearing casual clothes, removing their headbands, and pretending to be Fujiwara Yujin's escorts. Ito Hiro, seeing me come in person, why do you not open the gates to welcome me? Fujiwara Yujin, helpless, had no choice but to shout towards the city wall. Ito Hiro stood on the gate tower, his face a mask of discomfort. He and everyone else thought the former daimyo had long died, but not only was he alive and well, he was even sent to knock on the door. Ito Hiro spoke with a troubled expression. Lord Yujin, well, I don't have the current daimyo's written order in my hand, so I have no right to open the gates. He was an old hand in officialdom and clearly understood how tricky the current situation was. Fujiwara Yujin's younger brother had officially succeeded as daimyo. Although he was a Konoha puppet, he was still the legitimate monarch and the only one Ito Hiro pledged allegiance to. If he let Fujiwara Yujin in now, even if he did nothing, it would be difficult if the current daimyo found out. What, do you still harbor feelings for your old master and wish to enthrone someone else? Although the current daimyo was powerless to manage the south, Ito Hiro, as the city lord, was still a person of the land of hot springs and could not openly offend the daimyo. But not welcoming him wasn't an option either. Leaving Fujiwara Yujin outside seemed very inappropriate. After much deliberation, Ito Hiro could only shift the responsibility to the current daimyo, stating that as long as he gave the written order, Ito Hiro would open the gates. Keigaya Tetsu was prepared. He nodded to Fujiwara Yujin, so the former daimyo quietly asked. Ito Hiro, do you really think I will never return to the capital of hot water? A single sentence awakened him. Ito Hiro instantly realized. That's right, the daimyo was indeed in Konoha's hands now, but the war wasn't over. If Konoha eventually lost the capital of hot water, the current daimyo would definitely be driven out, and Fujiwara Yujin would certainly regain power. Even if Konoha achieved final victory, since the establishment of the ninja village system, ninja have tacitly agreed not to publicly kill daimyo. The Hokage, being so concerned with reputation, certainly wouldn't either. If they discovered Fujiwara Yujin was still alive, they might even bring him back to the capital of hot water and treat him with respect. At that time, to demonstrate their respect for the daimyo, Konoha would likely try their best to satisfy Fujiwara Yujin's requests, such as retaliating against a certain ignorant city lord. If he didn't open the gates today, he would definitely face severe retribution then. After much hesitation, Ito Hiro ordered. Open the gates. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. To survive long-term, you must hedge your bets. He saw that Fujiwara Yujin only had a dozen or so escorts, so they couldn't stir up any trouble. He just needed to secretly entertain him once, then find an opportunity to send him away, and he could avoid offending either side. While he was making his calculations, Fujiwara Yujin and his group slowly entered the city. Ito Hiro greeted them with a beaming smile, then his expression suddenly changed. The escorts behind Fujiwara Yujin suddenly changed their features, reverting to their Kirigakure ninja appearances. Stop them! He shouted loudly, but no one dared to move, because the guards recognized Keigaya Tetsu. Although Keigaya Tetsu didn't have the same fame as Minato yet, he was no longer an unknown. Especially in the land of hot springs, his previous battle with Shisui was remembered by many. To many land of hot springs ninja, this was the super genius who forced Uchiha Shisui to retreat. If they hadn't opened the gates and kept him out, it would have been fine, but now that he was inside, how could they stop him? Furthermore, the current daimyo's constant appeasement of Konoha had already caused much secret dissatisfaction, making them even less willing to fight to the death. Thus, Keigaya Tetsu took this major city without shedding a drop of blood. He kindly comforted Ito Hiro, then politely locked him in prison, praising Fujiwara Yujin. Well done. Let's use this method to take other places. Fujiwara Yujin gave a wry smile. A dignified daimyo controlled by the enemy, going around tricking his own city gates open, he had never imagined such a thing. Noticing his inner struggle, Keigaya Tetsu patted his shoulder. Don't feel ashamed. This is all to reclaim what originally belonged to you. Fujiwara Yujin glanced at him, secretly sighing that this guy was truly thick-skinned, still manipulating him even in this situation. But he had no right to resist, and this indeed allowed him to regain control of the southern region. At least half, or rather, 10% of the control. Having territory meant having power, which was better than being a fugitive chased by his younger brother. And so, with a team of only a dozen or so people, Keigaya Tetsu successfully took this city. He could have used brute force to attack directly, but that would be too slow and would surely attract the Mizukage's attention. Keigaya Tetsu wanted to seize this strategic location before the Mizukage could react, and then use it as a base to annex the surrounding areas. Once he controlled enough territory and demonstrated sufficient strength, even the Mizukage would be powerless to do anything. But to achieve all this, he still needed a heavyweight ally. Find Lord Ao and have him come to Suie City immediately. Keigaya Tetsu ordered a communication ninja. The next morning, Ao appeared before Keigaya Tetsu. You just took it. He was still searching for Fujiwara Yujin's whereabouts, but Keigaya Tetsu had already started conquering cities and territories. He had long held this young man in high regard, but witnessing Keigaya Tetsu take an important city with so few people still left him dumbfounded. Keigaya Tetsu briefly told him what had happened, and Ao showed a conflicted expression. Che-kun, we didn't kill Fujiwara Yujin. This is against the Mizukage-sama's orders. He was an honest man and was very uncomfortable with secretly occupying territory behind the Mizukage's back. Keigaya Tetsu laughed nonchalantly. Lord Ao, the Mizukage-sama's ultimate goal is to take the southern land of hot water. My method can achieve this goal the fastest. Ao remained silent, an internal struggle raging within him. Most of the southern towns still belonged to the daimyo of the land of hot springs, but Konoha was unable to govern them and had not sent anyone to guard them. Now, Keigaya Tetsu, by controlling the emperor to command the lords, could indeed seize this window of opportunity to expand his territory before Konoha reacted. Moreover, using his method to trick people into opening the gates was incredibly easy, with almost no casualties. Seeing his silence, Keigaya Tetsu subtly coaxed. Of course, Lord Ao can choose to inform the Mizukage-sama. However, given the Mizukage-sama's style, she would definitely order us to strictly follow commands, immediately kill Fujiwara Yujin, and then achieve the goal by sacrificing the lives of a large number of hidden mist ninja. Lord Ao is an elder of the village. Whatever you choose, I will listen. Ao secretly sighed that this brat was truly cunning, he was forcing him to choose sides. His status in the village was second only to a select few. If he supported Keigaya Tetsu, even the Mizukage wouldn't be able to say much. After much thought, he nodded heavily. Let's do it this way for now. He deeply loved the village, and as long as it maximized the village's interests, he would not hesitate to offend the Mizukage. Late at night, Nara Shikaku stood before a map, a candle in hand, his brows tightly furrowed. As Konoha's supreme commander in the land of hot springs, Nara Shikaku had been under immense pressure recently. Konoha had originally fully controlled the land of hot springs, but due to the Grass Village War, the Kazekage Tsuchikage personally launched a surprise attack, coupled with resistance from many residual forces in the land of hot springs. Konoha was forced to abandon the southern region and retreat north. If it were just that, it wouldn't be much. Many towns in the south still belonged to the land of hot springs and obeyed the daimyo of the land of hot springs, it was just that Konoha didn't have enough troops to garrison them. Nara Shikaku had originally intended to wait until the situation in the north was completely stable and Konoha had recovered its strength, then march south again to reclaim the southern part of the land of hot springs. However, because of one person, the entire plan was thrown into disarray. That tailed beast fooling Keigaya Tetsu. Nara Shikaku was a very cultured person, but even he couldn't help but curse when he thought of that brat. 2 days ago, he received a report that the former daimyo, Fujiwara Yujin, had suddenly appeared, going door to door in the southern region. Those towns in the land of hot springs, either deceived or still loyal to Fujiwara Yujin, all opened their gates, allowing Fujiwara Yujin to regain control of those areas. By the time Nara Shikaku learned of this and reacted, nearly half of the southern land of hot springs had fallen under Fujiwara Yujin's control. The situation was quite dangerous. Konoha had thought Fujiwara Yujin was long dead and had finally propped up his younger brother as a puppet, but now with Fujiwara Yujin active again, it would be very troublesome for Konoha to invade the south later. The mastermind behind all of this was Kagaya Tetsu. The fertile land in the south of the Land of Hot Springs was a place Konoha was determined to acquire, but who knew that because of that guy, Konoha's strategy was once again facing the risk of failure. Thinking of how Kagaya Tetsu had infiltrated and almost killed him, Nara Shikaku felt a chill in his heart. If only Shisui-kun had killed that guy earlier. He sighed softly, then refocused his attention on the map. Nara Shikaku was very confused now, not knowing what the Hidden Mist village actually wanted to do. According to the intelligence he received, Kagaya Tetsu's side should only have a few dozen people. If they really wanted to occupy the southern Land of Hot Springs, this number would definitely be far from enough. Currently, Fujiwara Yujin and Kagaya Tetsu were using Suie City as their base, gradually encroaching upon the southern region. Nara Shikaku had considered sending troops directly to suppress them, but he was a very cautious person and worried about a trap. That old Mizukage was no less cunning than Kagaya Tetsu. Nara Shikaku would never have guessed that this was actually Kagaya Tetsu's rogue action, and the Mizukage was completely unaware. Konoha had recently been troubled by the so-called armed civilian ships, and the forces on the eastern front were also stretched thin. Hokage-sama had no extra manpower to send him, and if he really fell into Kagaya Tetsu's ambush, the situation would become even more critical. He tried to contact Kumogakure, hinting that they could unite with the Kumogakure troops to eliminate Fujiwara Yujin's forces and divide the southern Land of Hot Springs afterward, but those barbarians, for some unknown reason, refused. The useless daimyo supported by Konoha also kept urging Nara Shikaku to find a solution. Ultimately, he had to solve the problem. Helpless, he had his assistant invite someone over. A moment later, that person stood before him, opening his mouth cheerfully. Lord Shikaku, have you finally decided to let me make a move? This person was dressed in a white robe, with long, Sengoku-style hair, and a pair of pure Byakugan eyes that revealed an undeniable pride. Lord Hyuga Shin, I apologize for calling you over so late at night. Nara Shikaku chuckled and bowed, while pondering the information about the other party in his mind. Hyuga Shin, a Jonin from the main family in his 30s, Hiyashi's cousin, believed to be destined to become a Hyuga elder. Hyuga Shin was one of the few elites Nara Shikaku had at his disposal. He had considered sending this guy to attack Suie City before, but the problem with Hyuga Shin was that he had a common flaw shared by most members of the main family. Arrogance. Nara Shikaku disliked arrogant people, and this arrogant person was also from the Hyuga main family. If anything happened to those Byakugan, things would get serious. But now, he had no one else to use, so he had to call Hyuga Shin over. Lord Shin, I need you to lead a team to attack Suie City. Whatever the Hidden Mist Village's objective, we absolutely cannot let them succeed. He was truly uneasy and couldn't help but remind him again. Besides Kagaya Tetsu, we don't know who else is in that Mist Village troop. After you depart, you must first send people to gather intelligence before choosing the right moment to act. Hyuga Shin had been waiting for this sentence for a long time. Don't worry, Lord Shikaku, I'll definitely bring back that brat's head for you. Ever since he heard that Kagaya Tetsu had come to the Land of Hot Springs, Hyuga Shin had been thinking day and night about killing that guy. The rescued Bobo had slandered their Hyuga clan completely, even saying that the proud Hyuga were the Hokage's dogs. This was truly unbearable. He's just a brat, isn't he? His subordinate troops are less than 100. If I personally go to encircle and annihilate him, won't it be as easy as pie? When the time comes, I'll have eliminated a great menace for the clan, and my position as elder will be secure. Seeing Hyuga Shin's arrogant demeanor, Nara Shikaku felt uneasy, but at this point, there was nothing else he could do. He also had to manage the capital of hot water, so he couldn't personally take the field. Then I'll leave it to Lord Shin. He nodded, and then, as if remembering something, continued. Oh, right, Hokage-sama previously instructed us not to enter Duwang Town. Hyuga Shin was stunned. Why? Duwang Town was a small town nestled between mountains, and it was also the only way to Suie City. If he didn't go through Duwang town, Hyuga Shin would have to detour over the nearby mountains, which would take several extra hours. Nara Shikaku shook his head. I don't know either, but this is Hokage-sama's direct order conveyed by the Anbu. Hearing this, Hyuga Shin said nothing more and nodded in agreement. Matters involving the Anbu were not for them to know. After discussing the action plan with Nara Shikaku, Hyuga Shin excitedly left the Tenshukaku. 4 ninja wearing similar attire were already waiting at the entrance, and upon seeing him, they all respectfully bowed. These few were all from the Hyuga branch family, and also Hyuga Shin's guards. The Hyuga clan stipulated that whenever a member of the main family went out on a mission, they must be accompanied by a 4-person branch family squad, to guard against unforeseen circumstances. Lord Shikaku has agreed to let me deal with Kagaya Tetsu. Get ready quickly, we depart tomorrow morning. He gave the order hastily, his tone as if speaking to slaves, not his own clansmen. The guard captain, Hyuga Chuichi, pursed his lips and hesitated before speaking. Lord Shin, that Kagaya Tetsu is full of tricks. Should we send scouts ahead to check the situation before making a decision? What if we fall into a trap? Hyuga Shin abruptly stopped, his hawk-like eyes fixed on him. Hyuga Chuichi quickly lowered his head, not daring to speak further. Facing this senior, who was more than 10 years older than himself, Hyuga Shin showed no respect, merely saying indifferently. The Hidden Mist village has so few people, how can we lose? Focus on what you need to do. When I become an elder, I might let your daughter become a house servant to look after a certain young lady. So, what were you saying just now? Hyuga Chuichi immediately knelt down. I say, elder's insight. His own daughter was also of age to become a ninja. If she were assigned as a guard to a main family member, her fate would likely be grim. Becoming a house servant might not sound glorious, but it was absolutely safe, and there was even a chance to be assigned to care for a young lady of the main family, which was already a very good job for a branch family member. Hyuga Shin was very pleased to be called elder, and almost let out a soft hum. These words were merely to reassure his subordinates into working hard. He wouldn't care about the life or death of Hyuga Shin's daughter. Hyuga Shin hurried off to organize his forces, unaware that in a dark corner, a ghost-like figure was silently observing everything. A large group of people rushed aggressively into the Duwang town casino entrance. Grab her. She has to pay back the money today. All the money I worked so hard to earn loan sharking is gone. These people included locals from Duwang town and those who rushed in from other places. They all shared one identity. Creditors to whom Tsunade owed money. When everyone heard that Tsunade was at the Duwang town casino today, they immediately rushed over without a second thought. Even the descendant of the god of shinobi owes money and refuses to pay. What has the world come to? Unfortunately, they searched the casino but couldn't find Tsunade. Are you looking for the woman in the green coat? A thin old man holding a mop asked curiously. Seeing everyone nod frantically, he pointed in a certain direction. You're a bit late. That fellow just went to Mahana town. She said the people there haven't gambled with her, so they'll definitely lend her money. Everyone cursed her shamelessness and rushed towards Mahana town in righteous indignation. After the crowd left, the old cleaner wiped the sweat from his brow, secretly slipped out of the casino, took several turns, and entered a rented courtyard, transforming back into Tsunade with a poof. She secretly thought how close a call it was. Luckily, she used the transformation jutsu just now, or she probably wouldn't have escaped today. Shizune heard the noise and quickly came out holding Taunton. Tsunade waved her hand at her. Quick, pack your things. We're not gambling anymore. Shizune's eyes lit up. Are you finally going to stop? Tsunade glared at her. Idiot, of course we're just going to gamble somewhere else. Shizune and Taunton simultaneously dropped their heads. What was she even hoping for? Is it really okay that you run away every time after racking up huge debts? Even though they had been living like this for a long time, Shizune was still very uncomfortable with it. While packing her luggage, Tsunade glanced at Taunton. Taunton's meat looks pretty good. If I run out of money, maybe I'll cut some off and sell it. I can heal it afterward anyway. Taunton indignantly waved its hooves in protest. Shizune stroked its head to comfort it and whispered. You wouldn't do something like that. Even those creditors, you wouldn't bear to see them harmed. Tsunade's movement of packing her luggage suddenly slowed down. Shizune cautiously suggested. Lady Tsunade, how about I go and help the village? Not long ago, a Konoha squad of about 200 people bypassed Duwang town, crossed the nearby Great Mountain, and headed straight for Suie City. Taunton's sense of smell was even sharper than a Ninken's, easily perceiving the movements of this squad. Tsunade also knew what the Kirigakure ninja had been up to recently. Anticipating a fierce battle near Suie City, she deliberately sent the creditors far away to prevent them from being affected by the conflict. She considered it a small repayment of her gambling debts. Tsunade continued packing her luggage. Someone else is worrying about Konoha's affairs. Why do you give a fool? Shizune did not back down. At least I want to use my medical ninjutsu to help them. Tsunade suddenly stopped and roared at her. Help them. Did they help me? Nawaki died without explanation, Kato Dan died without explanation, and my clansmen also died without explanation. Hiruzen Sarutobi promised to investigate, but after all that searching, he found nothing. I can't even get revenge. They even took back the Senju clan's assets, saying the village would appoint specialized personnel to manage them, telling me to consider the big picture and not haggle over minor profits, which resulted in me not even being able to pay off my gambling debts. How can you expect me to help this fool village? Like lit dynamite, she vented all the pent-up emotions in her heart. She had struggled to numb herself with gambling and alcohol, but this idiot Shizune kept bringing up Konoha, which greatly annoyed her. After finishing her breathless roar, she looked at the red-eyed Shizune and awkwardly patted her shoulder. Alright, I won't gamble for now. Let's rest here for a few days. She put down her luggage, suddenly picked up a rock, and violently threw it towards a corner of the courtyard wall. Get back where you came from, or suffer the consequences. She cursed and went inside, slamming the door shut. Outside the wall, several Konoha Anbu squatted on the ground, still shaken. Luckily, Tsunade was just scaring them. If she had aimed accurately just now, wouldn't they have been smashed to pieces? This Anbu squad was helpless. The Hokage had ordered them to guard the area secretly, constantly monitoring Tsunade's movements, and absolutely preventing her from exposing that secret. To cover up this secret, the Hokage even ordered Nara Shikaku to strictly prohibit Konoha ninja from entering Duwang town. If Konoha ninja saw Tsunade, they would certainly rush to surround her excitedly, and problems might arise. The Hokage had to strictly prevent leaks. To the outside world, the Sanin were still the three pillars supporting Konoha, but only a very few knew that one pillar had broken, one was tottering, and only Orochimaru was left desperately holding on. Now that Tsunade had directly driven them away, the Anbu captain helplessly made a gesture, withdrew from Duwang town, and headed straight back to Konoha to report the situation. Even the Hokage didn't dare to ignore Tsunade's words, let alone them, the Anbu. 2 days later, outside Suie City. Hyuga Shin, who had rapidly arrived here, was dumbfounded. He saw the city gates wide open, and there was no one on the city tower. Although ninja could burrow underground or climb walls, taking down a city wall was no easy task. Therefore, unless the defenders were insane, they would never open the gates directly. Lord Shin, it's definitely a trap. Hyuga Chuichi spoke in a deep voice. This empty city was obviously suspicious, especially since their opponent was Kagaya Tetsu. If it wasn't a trap, he'd gouge out his own Byakugan right there. But Hyuga Shin glared at him. What trap? The Mist Village troop numbers less than half of ours. Even adding the remnants of Yugakure, there aren't many. They must have feared us and abandoned the city to flee. Hyuga Chuichi was speechless. This main branch genius was always arrogant, and eager to earn merit to become an elder. He probably disregarded everything now. He wanted to persuade him, but Hyuga Shin had already waved his hand and ordered the Chunin captains. You go inside and check first. He hadn't completely lost his mind and knew to send people to scout the situation first. Several small squads cautiously entered the city gate. After a long while, they excitedly returned to report. Lord Shin, we've scouted the area. We didn't find a single ninja inside, only civilians. They all said Kagaya Tetsu and Fujiwara Yujin fled last night. Hyuga Shin glanced proudly at Hyuga Chuichi and laughed heartily. See. Always being overly cautious is not a good thing. But your branch family has always been timid. Ignoring Hyuga Chuichi's complex gaze, he led his squad into the city first. He had over 200 people. Dealing with a few dozen Kirigakure ninja was a piece of cake. After entering the city, he immediately used his Byakugan to scout the area. He genuinely found no enemy movements and completely relaxed. Taking a vital city without shedding blood, even Brother Hiyashi couldn't do that. Hyuga Shin was in high spirits and went straight to the Tenshukaku in the center of the city. Suie City's Tenshukaku was a 7-story building, surrounded in front by a semicircular inner wall. Hyuga Shin ordered half his men to guard outside in case of trouble and took the other half inside the inner wall. Arriving in front of the main hall, he was about to push open the large door when his expression suddenly froze. The door didn't budge, as if it were cast iron. Hyuga Shin used even greater strength but found he still couldn't push it open. Hyuga Chuichi noticed something was wrong and quickly warned the surrounding ninja. Pull back. The Konoha ninja quickly rushed toward the open inner wall gate, followed by many sounds of, huh. Many people stretched out their hands, felt around in the empty space, and soon reported in terror. There's something there. The empty inner wall gate seemed to be blocked by something invisible, they couldn't get out at all. Hyuga Chuichi made a decisive move, rushing forward and striking out with a heavy punch. Gentle fist. With a bang, the air seemed like disturbed water, spreading out several ripples. The Konoha ninja immediately released ninjutsu towards the surrounding walls, but the effect was the same, physical attacks were completely ineffective. Sealing jutsu. Realizing he was seemingly surrounded by a barrier, Hyuga Shin immediately guessed it was a sealing jutsu. It must be the 5-seal barrier. We need to tear off 5 talismans simultaneously to break it. As expected of a Hyuga elite, he quickly calmed down to think of a countermeasure. Don't panic, and stop attacking the barrier. Look for the talismans everywhere. Under Hyuga Shin's command, everyone quickly sprang into action, searching everywhere for the talismans. Just then, with a whoosh, a great fireball flew up from outside the barrier and exploded high in the air. Who? Hyuga Shin was greatly alarmed, and then saw Kagaya Tetsu, who had suddenly appeared, through the city gate opening. I didn't sense him just now. Did this brat use some kind of secret technique? Hyuga Shin was filled with doubt. Before he could think further, Kagaya Tetsu had already charged into the Konoha ninja remaining outside the walls and began his slaughter. Those Konoha ninja were mainly Chunin and Genin, with only 3 or 4 regular Jonin, they were no match for Kagaya Tetsu. 1,000-bone chaotic rain. He immediately fired 1,000 water gun bone bullets, causing large numbers of Konoha ninja to drop like weeds. Not long after he shot the great fireball, the reinforcements who had been waiting outside the city also arrived. Boil release. Skilled mist technique. Mei Terumi took the lead, and a large expanse of high-temperature acidic mist surrounded the Konoha squad, rapidly melting the skin and bones of many people. Water release. Hidden mist jutsu. Zabuza followed closely and released a thick white mist, then opened his mouth wide. Water release. Water-severing wave. The high-pressure water column was like a sharp blade, severing 7 or 8 Konoha ninja at the waist. Zabuza simultaneously drew his long sword and rushed into the crowd, mercilessly harvesting lives. I looked at the ferocity of these few people and sighed in admiration. These brats have grown to this extent. Especially Kagaya Tetsu, this guy probably already has the strength of an elite Jonin. He is only 13 years old. After sighing, Ao and the other hidden mist ninja joined the battle. Although the Konoha squad outside the walls had a numerical advantage, facing several elite Jonin who disregarded martial ethics, they were quickly beaten senseless and fled in panic. If Hyuga Shin had joined the battle, the situation would certainly not have been this bad. The problem was that he and another 100 people were trapped inside the barrier, forced to watch their comrades outside being slaughtered. Hurry up and find the talismans. Veins bulged on Hyuga Shin's forehead as he frantically searched every corner. Compared to his panic, Kagaya Tetsu was completely relaxed, moving calmly among the enemies, occasionally touching them to acquire some green and blue rewards. It's a pity the big fish hasn't taken the bait yet. Kagaya Tetsu regretted this secretly. During this time, he had been using Fujiwara Yujin to slowly encroach on territory, and knew that Konoha would certainly react, so he had already prepared. Keigaya Tetsu first intentionally spread news that the Mist Village troop numbers were scarce, hoping to lure a large Konoha army to pressure them, and then wipe them out in one fell swoop. Currently, Konoha's remaining strength in the land of hot springs was limited, so Keigaya Tetsu aimed for the first battle to be the decisive battle. Once the Konoha main force was defeated, he could safely occupy the southern region. Keigaya Tetsu had sent Zabuza to infiltrate the capital of Hot Water several days ago to constantly observe the movements of the Konoha people. When it came to infiltration ability, few could compare to the demon of the bloody mist. Unexpectedly, Nara Shikaku was even more cautious than he thought, remaining inactive and only sending Hyuga Shin over in the end. Keigaya Tetsu originally intended to use Duwang Town as the battlefield. Duwang Town was situated between large mountains, perfectly matching his battle plan. But for some reason unknown to him, Hyuga Shin actually led his squad around Duwang Town and drove straight toward Suie City. Helplessly, Keigaya Tetsu had to temporarily adjust his plan. He pretended to abandon the city and flee, but in reality, he had made Terumi and others ambush outside the city, while he alone used the mayflight technique to infiltrate the city and set up traps. Then he opened the city gates and waited for Hyuga Shin to arrive. If the Konoha commander had been Nara Shikaku, he definitely would have turned tail and run immediately, but since the opponent was Hyuga Shin, Keigaya Tetsu used Zabuza's intelligence to predict that this arrogant fellow would certainly take the bait. Sure enough, Hyuga Shin traveled all the way to the Tenshukaku and fell into the 5-seal barrier set up by Keigaya Tetsu. Uzumaki Kana had taught him this C-rank ninjutsu, and he hadn't expected to use it here. By the time he used the Great Fireball to signal his companions to attack, Konoha was already trapped like a turtle in a jar. In fact, if Hyuga Shin had patiently gathered intelligence, at least knowing who was in this Mist Village troop, they wouldn't have been defeated so miserably. But weakness has never been an obstacle to survival, arrogance is. He had figured out Hyuga Shin's intelligence, but the opponent had not figured out his, so the outcome was already determined. Before long, the Konoha squad outside the barrier had been largely decimated. Ao came up to Keigaya Tetsu and, unable to suppress his curiosity, asked. Che-kun, how did you manage all this? Keigaya Tetsu had previously just confidently told them to wait outside the city and attack upon his signal. When they arrived, they were surprised to find half of the Konoha squad already trapped. Keigaya Tetsu smiled mysteriously. I just used a little secret technique. Mei Terumi chimed in with a giggle. Lord Ao, we're all used to it. This guy always has surprises up his sleeve. Hearing it was a secret technique, Ao tactfully didn't ask further, but his admiration for Keigaya Tetsu grew considerably. Trust the person you hire, don't hire the person you doubt. Ao thought highly of Keigaya Tetsu. He hadn't even reported the situation here to the Mizukage yet, the village was probably still eagerly waiting for them to kill Fujiwara Yujin. As an elder of Hidden Mist, he naturally knew how crazy the various factions within the village were for power and profit. If they knew Keigaya Tetsu was about to achieve a great feat, they would probably desperately recall him to the Hidden Mist village, wasting this excellent situation. As long as they could defeat Konoha, nothing else mattered. At this moment, Hyuga Shin and the others finally found all 5 talismans, tore them off simultaneously, and surged out. He hastily commanded the communication ninja. Quickly release the ninja hawk for reinforcements. After speaking, he ignored Keigaya Tetsu in the distance and ran desperately toward the city exit. Lord Shin, aren't we going to support our comrades? Hyuga Chuichi asked in surprise. Although they had suffered a heavy blow, they still had enough strength to continue fighting. Hyuga Shin looked at him with an expression reserved for an idiot. Our morale has collapsed. Continuing to fight will only lead to total annihilation. Do you want your Byakugan stolen? He wiped away cold sweat, not revealing the real reason for his escape. Just now, he used his Byakugan to look at Keigaya Tetsu's chakra, and nearly died of fright. Inside that brat, besides normal chakra, there was a mass of black and red energy. Just looking at it, Hyuga Shin could feel the terrifying aura it contained. He had never seen a tailed beast, so naturally, he didn't know it was 8 tails chakra, but he knew he was absolutely no match for Keigaya Tetsu, and if he didn't run now, he would die. He was a noble member of the Hyuga main family, and his Byakugan needed protection. How could he inexplicably die in a place like this? Seeing Hyuga Shin escape, Ao was about to give chase, but Keigaya Tetsu stopped him. Lord Ao, please take your people to sweep up the remaining Konoha squad. We'll handle the pursuit. His plan wasn't complete yet, and he didn't want Ao to interfere. Fortunately, Ao was not a greedy person, and he immediately nodded, leave this place to me. You all be careful. Keigaya Tetsu stopped wasting words and chased forward with Mei Terumi and Zabuza. Keigaya Tetsu and the other two followed Hyuga Shin closely. If we can catch this guy, the village might get a Byakugan. Even Mei Terumi, usually calm, was unusually excited, and Zabuza couldn't help but speed up. Acquiring a pure Byakugan was the dream of countless forces, but the Hyuga clan's control over the Byakugan was extremely strict. The main family almost never went out on missions, and even if they did, they were accompanied by many guards. As for the branch family's Byakugan, it was meaningless to obtain. Keigaya Tetsu grinned. His goal was not as simple as just a Byakugan. He had just seen golden light emanating from Hyuga Shin's eye sockets and was determined to get the reward. At this moment, Hyuga Shin was fleeing with dozens of remnants, and Keigaya Tetsu deliberately shouted. The one in the white robe is Hyuga Shin. Hyuga Shin, who was sprinting, heard the shout and quickly summoned a Konoha ninja, swiftly taking off his Hyuga clan robe and putting on the other's green vest. Keigaya Tetsu shouted again. The one with long hair is Hyuga Shin. Snip. Hyuga Shin didn't say a word and quickly cut off his hair with his ninja blade. Unexpectedly, Keigaya Tetsu continued to shout. The one with short hair is Hyuga Shin. Snip. Hyuga Shin had no choice but to cut off another section of his sleeve to wrap around his chin. Keigaya Tetsu finally shouted. The male one is Hyuga Shin. Snip. Hyuga Shin subconsciously drew his blade, but was fiercely pulled back by Hyuga Chuichi, instantly regaining his senses. This brat was playing with him. Hyuga Shin gritted his teeth in hatred and could only quicken his pace to escape. Keigaya Tetsu laughed loudly, and Mei Terumi blushed as she lightly punched him. He deliberately scared Hyuga Shin, wanting to gradually break down the opponent's psychological defenses, ultimately leading them to the battlefield he desired. Mei, Zabuza, let's slow down a bit. Keigaya Tetsu was the first to slow down, watching Hyuga Shin run further and further away. Hey, aren't we going to catch him in one go? Zabuza was very puzzled. Keigaya Tetsu chuckled. Don't worry, I'll find him. This guy is bait, and I still need to use him to catch bigger fish. Keigaya Tetsu quickly explained his plan to the two, and even Zabuza's eyes widened after hearing it. This is too risky. Are you sure you can succeed? Keigaya Tetsu nodded confidently, no big problem. Mei Terumi bravely patted her chest, causing a slight jiggle. It's fine, at worst we'll retreat. Anyway, no matter what you do, we'll support you. She nudged Zabuza with her elbow. Right. Zabuza snorted. If it fails, I won't care about your lives. He had long since grown accustomed to trusting Keigaya Tetsu's decisions. Having reached a consensus, the three continued to lead the pursuit. Half a day later, Hyuga Shin led his surviving troops into the dark forest. Seeing that Keigaya Tetsu and the others had not caught up, they all stopped to catch their breath. After being startled by Keigaya Tetsu, most of his companions had scattered, and now only a dozen or so remained. He suddenly laughed several times, drawing curious glances from everyone. Lord Shin, why are you laughing? Hyuga Chuichi was a little worried that he might have gone mad. Hyuga Shin shook his head proudly. I laugh at Keigaya Tetsu's lack of strategy. If he had ambushed us here, we probably wouldn't have been able to escape, would we? As soon as his voice fell, countless bone bullets shot out from the dense forest. Puff, puff, puff. Several Konoha ninja immediately burst into large sprays of blood mist and fell silently to the ground. Seeing hundreds of bone bullets about to hit Hyuga Shin, a branch family guard next to him quickly acted. 8 trigrams empty palm. He pushed his right palm forward, and an invisible wave of air spread out, deflecting the incoming bone bullets. At this moment, a low shout came from behind. Dance of thunder and fire. Swish. A slash mixed with the power of thunder and fire quickly struck. This Hyuga branch family member could have dodged, but that would have exposed Hyuga Shin behind him, so he gritted his teeth and met it head on. Gentle fist. His fist shot out like a cannonball, and the immense force shattered the bone blade, causing the lightning sparks to dissipate in midair. But at the same time, this branch family member's hands turned scorched black, clearly ruined. Keigaya Tetsu. Hyuga Shin completely disregarded the branch family member's injuries, only looking at Keigaya Tetsu, who had drawn a second bone blade, in surprise. Wasn't this guy behind them? How did he get here so early? Keigaya Tetsu did not answer, because he was a bone clone. Hyuga Shin thought he was running fast, but on Keigaya Tetsu's system map, he was a golden, shining question mark. Keigaya Tetsu had predicted Hyuga Shin's escape route and sent a bone clone to ambush him in advance. The bone clone also had the system map in its mind, able to see Hyuga Shin's golden question mark within 1,000 meters, easily locating him. Stop him. Hyuga Shin was greatly alarmed. After giving the order to the branch family member, he continued to flee. His strength was actually not weak, but the mysterious energy within Keigaya Tetsu was too terrifying, and this brat always appeared suddenly and could accurately find him, appearing like a ghost in his eyes, his courage already somewhat shattered. Hyuga Chuichi's expression was grave. He nodded to the branch family member and continued to guard Hyuga Shin as they fled. Is this the end? How unwilling I am. The branch family ninja, whose hands were crippled, gave a bitter smile, raised his horribly mangled arms, and fiercely struck them against his chest, igniting the exploding tags, and charged towards the bone clone. Boom! The firelight reflected on Hyuga Chuichi's face. He tried hard not to recall the past of that branch family member, gritted his teeth, and continued to run. In the middle of the night, they reached a large river. They crossed the turbulent waters and hid behind a rock to rest. That guy shouldn't be able to catch up now, Hyuga Chuichi thought to himself. Even if the branch family member's self-detonation couldn't kill Keigaya Tetsu, it should at least delay him. Even if Keigaya Tetsu were to pursue them now, crossing the big river would take some time, enough for them to continue their escape. The four-person branch family squad was now down to 3, and only 5 or 6 Konoha ninja remained with them. Everyone was silent, and the atmosphere was heavy. Ha ha ha. A sudden burst of laughter echoed in the night, causing Hyuga Chuichi's mouth to twitch violently. Before he could ask, Hyuga Shin spoke again. Keigaya Tetsu is still a bit too green. If he had set up an ambush on the other side of this river, we truly wouldn't have been able to escape even with wings. Hyuga Chuichi almost couldn't resist covering his mouth. I beg you. That laugh just now had already attracted Keigaya Tetsu. Now he was laughing again. If he attracted something else, it would be even more troublesome. The other 2 branch family ninja also looked terrible, but couldn't say anything. In truth, Hyuga Shin was also very scared at this moment, but as a noble main family member, he absolutely couldn't show nervousness in front of the genin, so he could only use this method to dispel his fear. As soon as his voice fell, a faint voice came from behind. Hello. Hyuga Shin let out an ah, and shot up. Keigaya Tetsu emerged from the rock they were hiding behind, but only his upper body was visible, his lower body seemingly fused with the rock, which was very strange. Hyuga Shin finally confirmed that this brat indeed had some secret technique, even more troublesome than a ghost. Thanks for watching.